So meteorologist Matt Johnson says it's actually not uncommon to see a big change like this so late in April.
A storm system like this time of year is very standard for April in Utah. We can get these cutoff lows that bring in shower chances and even mountain snow.
Speaking of which, Matt says by Saturday, the mountains will have 6 inches to a foot of new snow. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Supreme Court hearing for presidential immunity is underway. Former President Trump has argued that presidents should get absolute immunity for actions while in office. John Sauer is arguing the case for former President Trump.
If a president can be charged, put on trial, and imprisoned for his most controversial decisions as soon as he leaves office, that looming threat will distort the president's decision-making precisely when bold and fearless action is most needed.
Stay with KSL for updates on the trial. Your money at this moment, the Dow right now is down 660 points. That's 1.75%. We're at 37,804. Coming up, we do have rain in the forecast. We'll check it next on KSL. KSL News Time, 9:02.
It's a priority for us at this station to bring you all sides of a story and to talk about the news fairly, completely.
Get all the facts and be really aware. Utah's Morning News with us, Tim and Amanda.
Weekday mornings 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Every year, we seem to have a few people trying to get our free furnace promotion after the sale has ended. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I know you want to save as much money as you can, but that's not how sales work. When they're over, they're over. Lucky for you, we still have a few more spots on our schedule we need to fill, so I'm extending the sale, but I'm not quite sure for how much longer. Definitely no later than April 30th, and once I think our schedule's full enough, I gotta pull these ads, so don't wait too long to call and schedule your free estimate. Just to recap, when you have Any Hour Services install a new air conditioner, we'll give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it. About $400. The furnace is free, you just pay the labor. So if your furnace and air conditioner are ready to be replaced, don't be one of those people that wishes they had called and taken advantage of our free furnace sale. The estimate's free, and we'll make sure you have all of the information you need to decide if our free furnace sale is right for you. If you think you might be interested, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Dear Dan, the laptop man from PC Laptops. My mom needed a computer to Zoom call me, my family, and the grandkids from across the country. You guys were so patient, helping her get everything set up just right. She gets so frustrated when things don't work, so I'm grateful that we found PC Laptops to hold her hand. I know it can seem crazy that she comes in every week for help, but you guys really are patient and treat her just like family. Signed, Happy Judy. Thanks, Judy. You know what's also amazing? The team from our store mentioned she brought by a giant box of donuts for them. This warms my heart, and this is why I started PC Laptops in 1992. PC Laptops, we really do love you. We have new computers with a lifetime warranty from $49 a month with 0 interest for a year. OAC, PCLaptops.com. That's PCLaptops.com, where we love you.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. I want to tell you about our famous You Don't Need a Warranty warranty. That's right. It's a warranty you don't need, but we give it to you anyway. Let me explain. Most warranty problems for siding, gutters, and windows are caused by not installing stuff right in the first place. If you rush the work, cut corners, or use subpar materials, you're just begging for problems later. At RGS Exteriors, we don't tolerate careless workmanship. We slow down, focus on every detail, and use only the best materials. We prevent warranty work by doing the job right in the first place. That's why the 10-year everything guarantee we give you is also known as our You Don't Need a Warranty warranty. We absolutely will be there if you need to use it. But honestly, you probably will never have to. Done right the first time. That's the RGS way. For siding, gutters, and windows, call 801-280-3110 or visit us at rgsexteriors.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Heather Kelly.
Amanda, all lanes are now open westbound I-80 in Parley's Canyon. This was due to a crash with a fuel spill right after the East Canyon exit. You still have some cleanup crews on the left shoulder, but there's nothing to hold you up now as traffic had been backed up to Lambs Canyon, but that's no longer the case. You do have a bit of slowing, though, northbound I-15 coming from Midvale all the way into South Salt Lake, but overall you've got a good drive everywhere else. Discover the power of hands-on learning at Tooele Technical College. With affordable, flexible, and achievable technical education, your future begins here. Apply today at technical.edu. That's technicaltech.edu. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
The rain and snow is on its way. Today will be partly cloudy with rain showers along the Wasatch Front. Highs in the 60s. Right now it is mostly cloudy and 59 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Thanks for joining us. We are keeping an eye on the Supreme Court as they listen to arguments about presidential immunity for former President Donald Trump. Debbie is off today, so filling in for her is Associate Director of the Hinckley Institute of Politics, Morgan Lyon-Cotti. Thank you so much. I'm very excited to hear your take on presidential immunity.
We're going to have a discussion.
And we're definitely going to have a discussion. So here on the show, we like to launch things at 9:06 every single day. Sometimes it's 9:05.
Sequence engaged.
All right, the launch is brought to you by Master Electrical Services, home of the upfront pricing guarantee. And here are the three things that Morgan and I want you to know.
Countdown. 3.
All right, it's getting down to the wire for many candidates as the GOP, the Democrats, the convention's getting ready for this Saturday. Who's going to make it onto the primary ballot, and will signatures and money make the difference for some candidates?
Yeah, for those that gathered signatures, this could be the icing on the top, and for those who didn't, it's sink or swim time.
Lean all the way into it. A lot of people are doing that with the convention, but boy, that is hedging your bet.
It's dicey.
It is dicey.
Countdown. 2.
Your kids probably just took this if they're a junior. 1.4 million kids in the U.S. take the ACT. That's what we do here in Utah. That 4-hour monstrosity. 215 questions, English, math, reading, science, plus an essay and writing section. I spoke to a high school senior that got a perfect score, and he thought he was set.
I thought that was my golden ticket into any college I wanted, which is not true, really, in retrospect.
It's not true because that perfect score got him nothing but rejection letters from all the colleges he applied to. Do you have any strong feelings about the ACT?
Yeah, it used to be a rite of passage, and now with different standards, it's a whole new ball game, and people are trying to navigate it.
Launch. Countdown. 1.
The Supreme Court is hearing arguments today focused on the extent of immunity that presidents should receive from criminal prosecution. Former President Trump has argued that he should enjoy see if I can do my Trump. Absolute immunity. Absolute immunity. John Sauer is arguing the former president's case before the court.
Without presidential immunity from criminal prosecution, there can be no presidency as we know it.
This is a conversation we really have not had for generations, and it is really important. And the idea that we will paralyze presidents if they have to deal with consequences is one side of the story.
Dave and Dujanovic.
The launch.
Commence.
Dave and Dujanovic. Special coverage of the top national story.
Morgan, you're absolutely right. Like we really haven't had this conversation. We haven't been forced into it because I don't know if we've ever had a president like Trump before.
We have not. I think we can say we have not.
We certainly have not, and in several different ways, because not only was he not a politician, he was a businessman. He was no stranger to courtrooms over the last several decades. He spent a lot of time being sued by this company or defending himself on so many levels from a business side. And when he came into the White House, it was almost like, getting sued, that's just what happens. You know, having a team of lawyers, that's just what you do. That's so unique to him specifically. He just has never seemed all that fluttered by being in a courtroom.
He hasn't. There's a big difference, though, between being sued and dealing with civil litigation and criminal prosecution.
Right.
And I said we haven't dealt with this conversation in many, many years, really since Nixon in the 1970s. But the country really didn't have to dive too far into that because he was pardoned so quickly. We actually didn't deal with a true impeachment and conviction process, a true criminal investigation. Well, no, there was an investigation, but a courtroom process. So this is all new territory. And I think in the United States, we like to pride ourselves on being a different type of country, a different type of democracy in which our leaders are held accountable. So this conversation that we will paralyze the president if they have to deal with these criminal charges, I think if a lot of Americans took a step back and took away party, I think they would really have to, put some deep thought into that.
Absolutely. So often when we hear the questions being asked by the justices, and the Supreme Court is listening to these arguments right now, you can get a little bit of an idea where they're leaning or where their thought process is. Let me play a little bit from Associate Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson as she's questioning Trump's lawyer, John Sauer.
Let me put this worry on the table. If the potential for criminal liability is taken off the table, wouldn't there be a significant risk that future presidents would be emboldened to commit crimes with abandon while they're in office?
And that is a great question. I mean, it is a little bit scary to think that if they truly have absolute immunity, then how far does that stretch?
Right. And I think that one of the things we often go to is we think about wartime decisions and will a president be held accountable for those? Some of the really controversial things Trump did that we're talking about with these cases have to do with elections. And what can you do while you're in office trying to hold on to that office? Is that a policy? Is that part of presidential power? Or is it, part of a campaign? Those lines are really gray and really fuzzy. And what I'm watching for also is some of the questions the justices are asking, they're not necessarily, as is often the case, about the specific case. It starts to become about a greater issue. So is this actually about presidential power and what presidents can or should do?
Because you could probably go back. I know you're quite the historian. You could look at every president in a situation where it's Bush and WMDs, or if it's leaving Afghanistan with Biden or Benghazi, it can stretch so far on so many levels. Just about every president you could look at and think, well, if someone had an inkling or a motivation, then they probably could come after a president for that.
And I think that's where Trump's attorneys are trying to make this argument, that we will paralyze the president. Justice Jackson's words of, okay, but how, if we don't have a standard, if we're not holding people accountable, are we actually emboldening this? I don't envy the judges today. I've never really wanted to be a Supreme Court justice, but this is one of those decisions that they have to be recognizing this has historic consequences, and we have to be so careful.
And I think most people can look at this and say, we've elected this person is the most powerful individual in the world, the leader of the free world. And they have to make impossible decisions you and I will never have to even wade a toe into.
Right.
And to second guess and play armchair quarterback on every single decision, which we already do, but to now enhance that with the possibility of jail time, why would you ever run?
I don't know why someone would want to be president. I think it's a crazy thing. But there's also, we have to recognize there's a difference between these are impossible decisions, the consequences are people's lives in many cases, but also when a person knowingly makes a decision that is against the law.
Yeah.
We have criminal laws, or we have, these codes. So this is what we're talking about. We're not talking about the impossible decisions, wartime. We're talking about whether someone knowingly breaks the law. And when that someone is the president, should there be consequences.
And how much freedom do they have to make those decisions?
Right.
Absolutely. What kind of precedent? I love that question that you asked. What kind of precedent does this set? We'll talk to KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas next as he breaks down both sides of the argument.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Dave and Debbie go out of their way to make sure you hear all sides of a story.
They're working the phones to get several viewpoints on for you.
Hi, it's Tim and Amanda. We get you the full story, too.
We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Business. It's all the things that keep this world turning. And behind every one of these companies is a partner helping to keep it all moving. It's why the local flower shop and your favorite pizza joint, the startup and the stadium, hospitals and hotels, banks and restaurants nationwide all choose the advanced network, cybersecurity solutions, and round-the-clock trusted partnership from Comcast Business, the company that powers more businesses than anyone else. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
See why Comcast Business powers more small businesses than anyone else. Get started with fast speeds and advanced security for $49.99 a month for 12 months with a 2-year contract. Plus, ask how to get up to an $800 prepaid card with a qualifying internet package. Don't wait. Call or go online to switch today. Ends 5/5/24. Restrictions apply. New customers only with 50 megabits per second internet and security edge. Eco bill and auto pay required. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra.
It rattled homes for miles.
A homeowner apparently called a friend and said basically, hey, I've got a bunch of old dynamite around, handed down through the family.
Evacuations and 2 explosions.
Crews responded and they said they found there was no safe way to remove it, so they had to detonate it this morning inside the home.
When you need to know or know more, come here.
I haven't seen that in the fine print on any homeowner's insurance plan.
We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. So nice to have the feel of spring in the air. May will soon be with us, and that means graduations, it's the wedding season, birthdays, all kinds of things to celebrate, including the big one, and that's Mother's Day. When you're planning a special event or any event that you want to feel very, very good and special about, it's time to call and make the reservations at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. And we have 2 locations, Hotel Park City and downtown Salt Lake City. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse simply has it all. The ambiance, the servers are the very best. But let's talk about the food. Unbelievable quality. The best meal you have ever had awaits you at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. And always, always, always save room for dessert. Hotel Park City, and, of course, downtown Salt Lake City. Whatever the special occasion, or no special occasion at all, go to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse.
You love the feel behind the wheel.
You'll love the new 2024 Acura MDX from Jody Wilkinson Acura. During the Spring into Performance event, Acura is offering 1.9% APR. Lease the 2024 MDX only $589 monthly. For offer details, text the word Acura to 57500.
Jody Wilkinson.
Downtown.
Acura.
1111 South Main. You'll love the new 2024 Acura RDX from Jody Wilkinson Acura. During the Spring into Performance event, Acura is offering 1.9% APR. Lease the 2024 RDX Super Handling All-Wheel Drive only $459 monthly. For offer details, text the word Acura to 57500.
Jody Wilkinson.
Downtown. 1111 South Main.
79 missionaries trapped and penniless inside Germany borders with war days away. From director T.C. Christensen comes Escape from Germany in theaters now. Tickets at escapefromgermany.com.
Howdy, folks. It's me again. And surprise, it's tomato frenzy time at J&J Garden Center in Layton. Right now, all large-sized tomato plants are only $2.99 each. That's half price and grown from seed right here at J&J. And while you're here, pick up a bag or 2 of J&J's private label all-purpose premium topsoil to help strengthen your vegetable garden for only $5.98 a cubic cubic foot bag. So come to the Tomato Frenzy sale at J&J Garden Center in Layton, where they have the best products at the best price and the best employees, too. Take the Layton Parkway exit, Main Street to Gentile, then west 2 miles. You got to see it to believe it. You really do.
Country grown to your home, J&J Garden Center.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Amanda Dixon. First, the former president's immunity trial is underway. His lawyer, John Sauer, is representing him in court since he is already in a courtroom for his hush money trial. Second, the U.S. Secretary of Energy will be in Utah today. She will be highlighting a new approach to strengthen grid resilience and clean, reliable power. Third, a private consulting firm has told the Alpine School District they think the best path forward for the state's largest school district is to split in 2. Right now it's 59 degrees. Back to David Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic. Special coverage of the top national story.
Arguments are currently underway at the Supreme Court surrounding a case regarding presidential immunity, something that John Sauer, who is former President Trump's attorney, is bringing before the court.
Without presidential immunity from criminal prosecution, there can be no presidency as we know it.
They want absolute immunity, kind of demanding it. And Associate Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson is responding this way.
Let me put this worry on the table. If the potential for criminal liability is taken off the table, wouldn't there be a significant risk that future presidents would be emboldened to commit crimes with abandon while they're in office?
Emboldened to commit crimes while they're in office.
With abandon.
What's that?
Commit crimes with abandon.
With abandon. Which, when you look around the world, a lot of leaders do exactly that. And I think that's part of what makes the United States so unique is we do hold our politicians, or at least we pretend to hold our politicians to a higher standard. But absolute immunity, I don't think any reasonable person can hear that term and think, oh yeah, no, absolute immunity all the time. Is there more nuance here that we're not seeing?
That's what I'd like to ask Greg. That it just seems like this humongous big question. Would a more narrow ask from the Trump camp been more, would be interpreting that differently? It just seems so broad right now.
Yes, this is not Monopoly. Your get out of jail free card, no matter what, doesn't make any sense. I think to any common sense, at least. Greg Skordas joins us right now, KSL legal analyst. And Greg, the term absolute immunity, I've always felt just full-on Happy Days Fonzie, jump the shark. It's just such a broad definition. Why in the world would they go with such a broad definition that so easily can be shot down, in my opinion?
Well, and it has been, Dave, and that's a good question because they are asking for that. But the Supreme Court has already narrowed the scope of the argument. And what they're saying is the immunity exists, or they're trying to decide whether the former president enjoys immunity from criminal prosecution for conduct alleged to involve official acts during his tenure in office. So it's limited to those things: criminal prosecution, official acts during his tenure in office. So it's not blanket immunity. It has to reach those three. Those are the 3 thresholds that they're deciding today. In other words, while he's president, while he's serving as president, and he's doing things that involve his office, presidential duties, should he have some level of immunity for those acts? And that's the narrow question that the Supreme Court is deciding today. Of course, the overlying case is a election interference case in Washington, D.C., a criminal case. And he's saying, well, I was trying to make sure the election was free and fair. I was trying to make sure that I felt that there was some fraud involved. I was trying to make sure that it wasn't that way. And I was just acting as president to make sure everything was done correctly. So he's trying to limit it to that, hoping that will give him that level of presidential immunity that you guys are talking about.
It's so interesting because we were previously talking about, there's just a vast array of issues that presidents have to make decisions on. But when it comes to elections, especially an election the president is running in, it's so difficult to see, what was self-serving, what was actually a campaign decision, what was an election decision. How do the justices sort of parse through that?
That's a great question, Morgan, and that's what we're hearing today. That's what the argument's about. Because, look, it wasn't like he was, ordering the execution of a foreign diplomat or something like that. This is just trying to make sure the election's done correctly. And is that part of his duties as president? That's the first question. It really is that Congress's job? Is it the state's job? Or is it something he should be doing? And was it really something that he was in his wheelhouse? So most legal experts, Morgan, are saying that the president has a weak argument. Most people believe he will not prevail on this. But a bigger question ends up being, how long does the Supreme Court take to make a decision? Because if they don't decide this case until June or July, is it even possible that this case in D.C. will get to trial before November? And if it doesn't, and if he wins the president, can he just have the case dismissed? So the timing of this is as important as the ruling itself.
Greg, one of the arguments I've heard is there was so much evidence President Trump should have known better. He should have known that the election interference was bogus. But the election happened in November. January 6th happens, just a matter of weeks later. His argument of should have known better, or he shouldn't have pushed back so hard against the voting. What do you make of that? In hindsight, we look at it 3-4 years removed, and we have a preponderance of evidence. How does it change when he was just weeks out of this?
Well, so what's going to happen is the government's going to rely on their the lawyers and the staff members and the experts that were consulting the president at the time, because some of them were telling him, this is wrong, you can't win this, this is out of your wheelhouse. So when it comes to his knowing, his mental state, sure, we can look back on it now and say he should have known better, but the government's going to show that they actually had people advising him at the time that he should know better, that he shouldn't have done this. And that's going to put his mens rea, his guilty mind, if you will, in front of the jury, and they'll have to decide whether or not he was just reckless in his conduct and wasn't really thinking it through, or whether he should have known better because people were telling him, hey, you're wrong. You're not going to be able to make this prevail.
But he also had people whispering in the other side of his ear saying, no, go forward. This is absolutely
right. No, you're exactly right. That's going to be his defense. Hey, I relied on the experts. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a constitutional law analyst. And people were telling me this is what I can do and this is what I should do. And I was relying on that. So, yeah, it's up to the jury to decide whether he really crossed the boundaries that you guys they're talking about.
Greg Skordas, thank you as always. Such a great conversation. Our legal analyst here at KSL, also a host of KSL at Night. And Morgan, I think when you do have a more narrowed scope, that's what the justices are looking at. What kind of precedent does this set for future presidents?
Well, it depends on which way we go, right? If they do rule that he is held accountable, then that is the existing precedent. I think it is the idea that we all have is that presidents, just like the rest of us, shouldn't break the law. If it's the opposite side, I think this is a whole new territory that the country's going to have to navigate.
It would be monumental on a level that it's almost hard to comprehend how far-reaching this could be. It may feel like a very narrow scope right now, but when the Supreme Court rules on something, all of a sudden it becomes expanded and people start challenging, does it mean this? Does it fit in this mold or down this lane as well? And it could just expand exponentially.
It could, and people, again, we view the world through such a partisan lens. You may think you really want one decision based on who you like right now, but you have to think 4 years, 8 years, 12 years down the road, if someone you don't like is in power, is that still the decision you want to have happen?
That's great. It is a seesaw. It's a teeter-totter. It may feel great right now in the moment, but this is something I think the justices are looking at and trying to figure out, okay, once the political heat is turned down, can this be abused in many other ways. It's a great story that we will continue to follow because it is absolutely fascinating. When we come back, 1.4 million kids in the U.S. take the ACT. Your kid probably just took it if he's a junior in high school. 4-hour monstrosity. I spoke to a high school senior that got a perfect score, and he thought it was made.
I thought that was my golden ticket into any college I wanted, which is not true, really, in retrospect.
Yeah, that golden ticket didn't get him into Wonka's Chocolate Factory. Got rejected from MIT. And then the backup school he thought was a slam dunk got rejected from that as well. We'll find out a little bit more about the ACT and its future here in Utah.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. Our top story, a private consulting firm has told the Alpine School District they think it's best for the district to split in two. Lance Richards with MGT Consulting told the Alpine School Board the people they surveyed overwhelmingly want to keep it as one.
I'll be honest with you, a majority of respondents and majority of participants in the collective whole did vote for that and register that response.
MGT initially proposed 6 different options for the future of the district, between keeping it together or splitting into 2 or even 3 districts. If the board votes to adopt their recommendation to split in 2, voters will still have the final say in November. Transfer rules for high school sports in Utah are about to get tougher if a new proposal passes next week.
Utah High School Activities Association says students who transfer could be forced to sit out for 30 days or up to half of their first year at the school. This all has the full support of Jason Smith, principal at Northridge High School. He's also on the executive board recommending the changes.
I've just always been a big proponent of fair play, right, and keeping conditions as fair as possible in high school sports.
Smith says under the new rule, if a student transfers for a second time, they would have to wait a year for eligibility. Exceptions would be made for a few specific cases: death of a parent, documented divorce, or full family move. Mark Jackson, KSL News Radio.
Your money at this moment, the Dow is off 606 points. Now we're at 37,854. Coming up, KSL weather. We've got rain in the forecast. We'll check it in just a moment. KSL News Time is 9:32. Here's a way to get breaking news updates anywhere you go.
At the store or in a work meeting, you can get breaking news on your phone.
You can quickly read it, swipe, or click for more. It's super discreet, super fast.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
I don't know what was going on in the 1970s when they were building homes in my neighborhood, but it's like they forgot to put in lights. Like my living room had 0 lights. It was all lamps. And for some reason, someone thought, oh, that's totally the design we want. We had to go back and add lights all over the house. I don't like doing electrical work myself. That's why I turn to the professionals, and Master Electrical are every bit the professional you're looking for. They have what's called the upfront pricing guarantee. So if you have somebody come out, give you a bid, you can trust this bid. They guarantee that they will honor that bid, even if the project takes longer than they anticipated. They do everything from lights, ceiling fans, smoke detectors, generators, batteries, EV chargers. They do everything. Anything that has to do with electrical, all you have to do is give them a call at 801-543-2222. That's 801-543-2222. They serve from Logan to Santaquin, emergency services, so they're always open. 801-543-2222, or check them out online at masterelectrical.com.
Progressive presents 10 things on a contractor's to-do list that are harder than getting a commercial auto insurance quote. Bidding a new client, giving an accurate estimate, finding affordable materials, getting a client to pay you for work you already did, getting a client to pay you, period, securing permits and workers and tools, getting those workers and tools to work together, and finding the perfect pair of overalls. Pockets, baby. But the easiest thing on a small business owner's to-do list? Seeing if you can save on commercial auto insurance. Get a quote in as little as 7 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Coverage subject to policy terms and conditions.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you're always looking for ways to position your operation to create opportunities and move on them faster. With Bank of America, you get access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2024 Bank of America NA.
Tonight on KSL.
That's a huge increase.
A lot of Utahns are getting sticker shock.
I called them up to ask them what was going on.
By the surging cost of insurance. New specialist Daniel Woodruff uncovers the painful truth.
I've been in the business 40 years and I've never seen this hard of a market.
And reveals the simple things you can do to drive the costs down.
Definitely paid off.
Surging insurance, an unaffordable Utah report. Tonight on KSL 5 News at 10.
Hello, I'm Case Lawrence, and I'm running for Congress. Our skyrocketing national debt is the greatest risk to the American dream. We can fix America's debt crisis, but not with politicians who are more worried about their next election than America's next generation. I'm not a politician. I'm a problem solver. I hope you'll join me. I'm Case Lawrence, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Case for Congress.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Heather Kelly.
Well, for the first time all morning long, we don't have any delays on the major freeways across the Wasatch Front. That includes I-15 through Utah, Salt Lake, Davis, and Weber counties, the east and west side belt routes, and I-80 through Parley's Canyon. Now, we do have a couple of minor fender benders on some of those roads, but they're all off to the shoulders and not causing problems. For over 30 years, Replenish Landscape delivers the finest compost for flower and vegetable gardens. Replenish is perfect to till into existing soil or top dressing even for your lawn. Learn more at replenishcompost.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
The rain and snow are on their way. Today will be partly cloudy with rain showers along the Wasatch Front. Highs will reach the 60s. We'll have between 6 inches and a foot of new snow in the mountain by the end of the weekend. Right now, it is 61 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
I have a lot of really strong opinions on a lot of things, so you're not going to be surprised when I say I have very strong opinions about the ACT here in Utah. Morgan Lyon-Cotty is filling in for Debbie Dujanovic today. She's the Associate Director at the Hinckley Institute of Politics up at the University of Utah. So when I say the SAT or the ACT, do you get a pit in your stomach like I do?
Yeah, I think we all still, doesn't matter if it was 5 years ago, 2 decades ago, 4 decades ago, I think we all are still feeling the residual stress from taking those tests.
It is so long. 4 hours.
Yeah. And I mean, now I think they're more aware of water breaks or letting kids eat a protein bar. In the 80s and 90s, nobody cared about our blood sugar.
No.
We just sat down and took it.
They don't care how dehydrated you are.
No, your brain stops functioning when you're hungry and when you're thirsty.
I'm trying to remember at what point I ejected on the test. Like, what section was it? Was it hour 3? Was it in math? Was it early on? I can guarantee you I wasn't paying attention at science.
Oh, yeah, I definitely remember just staring at some point and thinking, how am I supposed to do this? And if I remember, I took it twice and thinking, okay, I know where I need to improve. And my scores just swapped. Like I did better in math and worse in English. What are the 4 sections? I just remember there are 4. And so my score actually stayed the same. And I remember I was so mad. I did so much better on the other sections I'd focused on, and the other ones just seesawed.
Okay, so 2,000 colleges and universities, they no longer require ACT or SAT scores, but you still have over 3 million kids in America taking these tests. How much focus do you put in your family on like getting ready for the ACT, preparing for the ACT? I think you're
I'm
kind
just
of getting
coming
close,
into this
right?
stage. Right. I'm just coming into this stage. Next year is the first year I will have a kid in high school. When you hit that 9th grade mark and all of a sudden you try to remind them, hey, guess what? These grades now are part of your college application. So we have not actually talked about this. So this is a really good conversation for me to be thinking about, that this is an option if my kid wants to go to school at one of the universities that still takes these. Are we going to be focusing on this? And also, even the schools that don't require it, it now can be viewed as this could be a boost. If you do really well, this can help with your application or with those scholarship applications.
Let's talk about doing really well. 1.4 million kids take the ACT. 0.0025 of those kids get a perfect score. I mean, it's
astounding.
It's extremely rare. About a little over 3,000 kids in the entire nation will get a perfect score.
And everybody in that senior class at that high school, everyone knows.
Everyone
the
knows.
Perfect score. Yeah,
Everyone knows the 36 kid.
It's a
Yes.
big deal.
Well,
everyone knows the 35 kid and the 34
oh,
kid.
yes.
Yes.
I had an intern who I nicknamed Herschel Walker because she scored a 34.
Yeah.
I mean, I called her Herschel for the entire internship because it's so impressive. So to get a perfect score, 36, incredible. Well, I have one of those kids in my neighborhood. He happens to be my son's best friend. He's the smartest kid in the room. Everyone knows that he got a perfect score, and I wanted to know, okay, so you got the 36, you worked hard to get it. What did you think that meant for your future?
I thought that was my golden ticket into any college I wanted, which is not true, really, in retrospect. But yeah, I thought that.
But it's what you thought at the time.
Yeah, I thought I had it made.
Anywhere you wanted to go.
Yeah.
How big? Like, what kind of schools are we talking about?
Like MIT, Caltech, those kind of schools. Turns out Caltech isn't even accepting ACT scores right now, so I didn't even apply to Caltech.
So he realized, okay, this great score, it's not going to help me in Caltech. He applied to MIT and then BYU. MIT, he understood, that's a long shot. I mean, that's a 6%, 4 to 6% acceptance rate. Like BYU, let's be honest, it's a great school. The acceptance rate is 60, 70%. He's like, I've got a 36. That's my backup. I'm super happy going to BYU. He gets rejected from both. So help me. Both of them.
It's brutal. And as you said, I'm just coming into this trying to think about, talking to my kids, figure out what they want to do, and navigate that space. Should we be focusing on GPA? Should we be focusing on extracurriculars? Should we be focusing on these different things while also letting them do what they want to do? Go and play sports and go have that free time and hang out with friends and have an actual childhood.
So I wanted to know his name's Trenton, and I wanted to know, okay, so you applied to MIT, apply to BYU, then what happens?
I didn't really find out much about that until I got my applications back. I was rejected from both the schools I applied to, BYU and MIT. BYU was a real shocker for me. MIT, I knew that it was a long shot to get in, even with the 36. And I had heard actually that MIT really values a high ACT score. So I was kind of surprised. I kind of had like a dream in my heart that I was like, I know I'm going to get in, but it just didn't happen.
So you knew MIT was going to be competitive.
Yeah.
But that was your goal. That was your hope, your dream. That wasn't a big shocker, though. Still a disappointment?
Still a disappointment for sure. But I knew the admission rates. I think it's like 6% or something crazy like that.
But BYU
was a shocker for me. I had no idea. I still have no idea, actually, like what went wrong on my application, if anything went wrong, or if the stars didn't align. I have no idea.
Now, in retrospect, I'm sure he wishes he would have applied to a dozen colleges. But he was just so confident. The ACT, I think, may have built up enough confidence in him. He's like, oh, yeah, well, here's the shoot for the moon, but this one I'm for sure going to get into.
Yeah, and it's just such a heartbreaker. And I'm glad that this puts a personal view on this. I think sometimes people see the videos on TikTok or Instagram of kids who say they did or didn't get into certain schools. You don't necessarily know. But this puts a view on this, that how hard it is to navigate this space. And I'm sure there are some people that are saying, well, why didn't they just apply to more schools? But you don't know every family's situation. I don't know this family's situation, but other kids, it costs money. You do pay a fee to apply to every single school. It takes time. You have to write different types of essays depending on the schools. So this is just a new space that, and I do mean new. This is not something that even big brothers and sisters can help with, aunts and uncles, parents. This is different than when they applied.
And there are so many Ivy League schools that over the last several years started making the ACT, SAT test optional is the term, where they don't necessarily take that into account. And these are the elite universities in the nation, and now they're starting to backtrack a little bit. Now they're starting to say, maybe we do require them after all. But I want to talk to Trenton's mom, because in my estimation, when I'm looking at it, outside looking in, I'm like, this family did everything right. They focused on the right things. They helped where they could. The child did absolutely everything they could, but it still wasn't enough. Does this change the way you parent? Because they certainly moved the goalposts. They're moving the goalposts all over the place. I don't know where to kick the ball. So up next, we'll talk to mom and find out, okay, does this change the way you parent your younger kids?
Dave and Dujanovic.
Current events can have a lot of moving parts. Our job is to make it easy to keep up.
You're part of a bigger world, so spend 15 or 20 minutes here and be part of it.
Join us weekday mornings between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Let me tell you, I've been losing some weight. I've been watching what I eat, but this isn't just like the everyday thing that we all try to watch what we're doing. I joined a program, Salt Lake City Fat Loss. And for the last 3 months, I've been on their program, and they told me, we have the secret to losing a pound of fat every single day. I thought there's no way I'm going to lose a pound of fat every single day. But sure enough, over 60 days, I lost 57 pounds, and I feel great. They held my hand through the entire process, and we did it without surgery. I say we. I did all the work. They gave me the program. But I did it without surgery. I did it without injections, no point counting, no crazy exercising routines, and no prepackaged meals. So for the past month, I've been able to keep that off because I learned how to eat healthily. So if you're interested in losing some weight, I saw some incredible results. Everyone has different results. Results vary, of course, but go ahead and check it out. Get a free consultation. Go to their website, slcfatloss.com. That's the website, slcfatloss.com.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio. Or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
What makes you so different than the rest of us?
We ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Tell me more.
Our investment counselors focus on service over sales, prioritizing clients' needs.
How do you make money?
We don't sell any commission-based products. We have a simple management fee based on the value of our client's portfolio. So we do better when our clients do better.
What about client portfolios?
We get to know each client, their finances, family, health, lifestyle, and more, and then we tailor a portfolio based on their specific goals and needs.
Your clients really come first then, huh?
Yes, we make them a top priority. Our goal is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement.
Wow, maybe we are different.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Ready to wake up in a new destination nearly every day with Norwegian Cruise Line? Book today to get 70% off second guest to Alaska, Europe, and beyond. Plus, everyone can enjoy their vacation with free unlimited open bar, free specialty dining, and more. Visit ncl.com, call your travel advisor, or 1-888-NCL-CRUISE. Offer ends soon. Norwegian Cruise Line. Ships registry the Bahamas and USA. Restrictions apply.
The rest of my life gon' start today.
Get Mr. Mac's Performance Missionary Package. Includes 1 performance suit, 4 and collar stretch shirts, 3 ties, 1 mission belt, 1 pair of Echo or Johnston & Murphy shoes. Just $595.
Peyton was a very kind and giving person. At 15 years old, he sustained life-threatening injuries from a motorcycle accident that took his life. His family felt like Peyton would want to save others and made the decision to donate his organs. Because of their generosity, his organs saved a 2-year-old girl, a teenage boy, and others that were desperate in need of life-saving organs. Go to donorconnect.life and read about what it takes to become a donor. Did you know many people think that they're too old or not in good enough health to be a donor? Anyone can be a donor. If you were told that it could save the life for someone close to you, or even a stranger, would you please donate? April is National Donate Life Month, the perfect time to check your driver's license to make sure you said yes to giving the gift of life. Or visit donorconnect.life to register as a donor. That's donorconnect.life. Give hope, heal life.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Amanda Dixon. First, a big change is coming to the weather forecast. Valley rain, thunderstorms, and a big temperature drop are on the way. Second, oral argument is underway at the Supreme Court on the question of presidential immunity. Third, a pilot program to get rid of toxic algal blooms in the Manaway Reservoir with a non-toxic solution is underway. Right now it's 61 degrees in Salt Lake. Back to David Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
I know you can't have favorites when it comes to your kids, but you can have a favorite friend. And my favorite friend that my kid has is Trenton Caldwell. They've been friends for a number of years. He's a great kid. Well, he's got a 3.8 GPA. He's taken 7 AP exams. He's gotten 5 on just about every one. Perfect score on the ACT. And this kid got rejected from the 2 schools he applied to. And you're like, oh, well, I mean, if it was MIT and Harvard and Yale, like that makes sense. Yeah, he got rejected from MIT, but he also got rejected from BYU. BYU has a 70% acceptance rate. The kid has passed 7 AP classes, and he got a 36 on his ACT. Like, if this kid can't make it, what kind of chance do the rest of us have? Which brings up the larger conversation of what are we doing with the ACT in Utah? Morgan Lyon-Cotty is filling in for Debbie Dujanovic today. You remember this. You took the ACT. You remember being traumatized by it.
I wasn't truly. It was little t traumatized. Let's
little
be
t.
clear.
Little t.
It was just known as a rite of passage. It was really clear. This is what you do. You work on your GPA. You do this. You know, I applied to college in the previous century. And so we didn't even worry as much about extracurriculars. You know, if you put down if you were an officer, if you were a captain of a sports team. But what parents are navigating now is very different.
Jamie Caldwell is Trenton's mom. And Jamie, this I gotta figure out. As a parent, as you're watching this happen, because you've watched your son go through this, work hard, stay home, don't go out with the friends to study or write something. What was your reaction when he got the rejection letter?
Super surprised. I was almost like ready to be disappointed if he didn't have a full ride scholarship, you know? So the fact that he didn't even get in was just completely shocking.
It wasn't even admission because our minds go, and you know how difficult it is. You know
right.
the numbers and how difficult it is to get a great ACT score, a perfect ACT score. So what do you do, or how did you react when obviously the surprise kind of settles and now the disappointment sets in?
Yeah, I mean, I've thought a lot about this because he's my oldest of 4, and I'm like, I feel like I really put a huge emphasis on academics in general, but especially the ACT. For me, I actually had, I did decent on the ACT. I didn't get a perfect score, but I did decent, and I had a scholarship to a university that was called the ACT Award Scholarship. So in my mind, this, like he said, it was a golden ticket. That was a way to get into these great colleges. And so we really focused on that. I made him even quit his job with your son because I knew he was taking this really rigorous class load, and I wanted him, in my mind, I was like, okay, a college scholarship is going to be worth more than the money that he's going to make working in retail right now, you know? And so I feel like we kind of tailored our lives to really focus on his academics, and I've done that for my other kids. And now I'm like, shoot, maybe I did it wrong. Like, I don't know,
Yeah, it's so difficult. As parents, we're always trying to figure out, are we doing this right? The time machine, if we could just have a time machine to go back and fix some of these little things. But what are the next steps? Like, how are you, as you said, you have your younger kids. So now what are you trying to think of? What advice would you give parents? Should they be focusing more on extracurriculars, their GPA? Like, how are you processing this? And also, like, not even that you need to course correct. It sounds like you made so many great decisions, but navigate this.
Oh man, I feel like that's an impossible thing to answer, because I feel like he did the extracurricular and he does have a decent GPA. He doesn't have a 4.0, but if it was a weighted GPA, it would be over a 4.0, and so
he took hard classes, 7 AP classes.
Right. So I really honestly have no idea. I do know with my youngest, so with my oldest 3, they're all really close in age. I really pushed them to do accelerated math so they could do calc their junior year. And with my youngest, I just decided it clearly didn't matter. And so I am not going to push you to do that. Let's take an easier load. It didn't matter, Yeah.
And you talked about your own experience, this amazing scholarship. I know for me, I have a sibling who's like just one stage ahead of me. So I'm always asking her, like, what classes are my kids supposed to be registering for? How do I navigate this coach situation? What were you, apart from your own great experience, what were the things that you were watching and that you really took lessons from?
With Trenton?
Yeah, just with your kids and academics and navigating this space.
Yeah. I mean, I always encouraged, we're not taking regular classes, we're taking honors, and we're, if it's a subject you enjoy or you're good at, we'll do an AP. So yeah, all 3, my older, they're all 3 of them are in high school. They're all just full class loads. Because that in my mind, that was the thing to do. Those are objective measures that colleges can look at. And in my mind, some of those other things were subjective. And so I'm like, we're going to do the very best we can on these objective things. And obviously try and do awesome on subjective things too, but they're subjective. So it's different for every kid. Yeah.
That was one of the things as I was talking to Trenton, and I want to play a little bit of his reaction, because I asked him, okay, so you didn't make it. Do you know why?
Then just we're unable to offer you admission.
How frustrating is that?
It's pretty frustrating, because I really feel like if I knew what it was, I would be able to fix it lickety-split, But it's just impossible, really, because I have no idea. So I am planning on reapplying, and I think I'm just going to do pretty much the same thing. I don't know what I would change other than applying early action to both schools. But I can't think of anything else that would change that.
I think that's got to be supremely frustrating, because when you get rejected, you get the form letter. Sorry, didn't make it. They don't give you a reason. They make you jump through all the hoops, write the essays, put yourself out there. But when they say no, they don't say anything more than, we just no. So how frustrating is that for you to not know where he could have improved his application?
Super frustrating. I mean, anyone that I've talked to, like high school counselors or anybody that knows about this, is like, it has to be a mistake. But whether it is or not, we have no recourse other than to reapply, which we will. But it's just interesting because we have no clue, like what we got to do better, what we've got to do better the next time.
And when we come back, I want to talk to the University of Utah, because the way universities are weighing the ACT and the SAT has changed over the years. It used to be the be-all, end-all when I was growing up. And now you've got Ivy League schools that have decided to make it test optional, meaning you can apply and we won't even look at your scores. We'll look at your grades, your essays. But we've seen Yale, Harvard, Dartmouth, Brown all say we're not taking that into account. And now these schools have reversed course and started saying, we're going to bring back the standardized testing. We're going to start including that into our applications. But the University of Utah just released, they said, nope, we're not going to do that.
FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. The U.S. Supreme Court this morning hearing arguments over the extent of immunity from criminal prosecution for former presidents. Former President Trump says presidents have to have absolute immunity. John Sauer, arguing on behalf of Trump, suggested that the idea of a lack of immunity has come about relatively recently, but Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson sees American history differently.
I understood that every president from the beginning of time, essentially, has understood that there was a threat of prosecution, if for no other reason than the Constitution suggests that they can be prosecuted after impeachment.
The immunity claim is an issue that has to be decided before the case against the former president on election interference can go ahead. Here in Utah, a pickup truck driver is under arrest after the Highway Patrol says that driver smashed into a trooper's car parked on the side of I-15. This happened on the 90th South off-ramp overnight, where troopers had stopped another vehicle for a DUI. Lieutenant Cameron Roden says they had flares set out. The patrol car had lights flashing. The truck driver also being investigated now for DUI. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average way down on the day right now, 552 points, about 1.4%. The NASDAQ is down right now, 237 points. And our KSL weather, it's going to cool right off and get stormy. That's next. KSL News Time, 10:01. News doesn't just mean information or dates.
It's the story of our local history being told in real time.
Be a part of the story. This is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
We hope to be a part of your story. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Springtime in Utah, and if you're a business owner that hates to paint, do what business owner Al did. He called Rhino Shield.
I was watching TV one night and saw the Rhino Shield ad, and I thought, well, if they can do a house, they can probably do a building.
Rhino Shield ceramic technology is formulated for our unique climate here in Utah and is Class 1 fire rated.
So they came out and they gave me a price, showed me how the Rhino works, how it lasts, and how the guarantee works.
Utah residential or business, get the 25-year guaranteed protection of Rhino Shield right now for 15% off the regular price.
They waited for us to leave, and they worked Saturday and Sunday so they wouldn't affect our business at all. This was the great part of it. I came back Sunday night, and you couldn't even tell they were here. There was no paint on the ground. They did a fantastic job.
Utah, this offer is limited, so call 435-246-4466, 435-246-4466, or visit rhinoshieldwest.com.
Go Rhino Shield.
Hello, Spring. This is your friend, Adventure. You've been on my mind, and I'm wondering where you've been. Weather's warming, and word on the street is you're looking for riders to enjoy Cedar City Bryan Head's spectacular trails? Well, I'm told Three Peaks Recreation and Parawam's Evil Water Trail System are the bomb. Or perhaps you've changed. Maybe you're more into hiking? Kolob Canyon or Thor's Hammer Trail make a perfect meetup place. Oh, and don't forget Cedar City's spectacular views accompanied by disc golf at the Thunderbird Garden Course. Listen, I've always been here. I still like the same things, spring skiing, tubing, but I'm more mature now. My interests have expanded. There's Cedar City's Southern Utah Museum of Art, strolls downtown, fine dining or shopping. I'm more interesting than you know. Let's connect and rekindle our relationship, starting in the spot we always enjoy. Cedar City Bryan Head. Look me up at visitcedarcity.com. Your old friend, Adventure.
You've been trying to hold off, but you think it's time you might need a new roof? Best move you could make is to call the highest-rated roofing contractor in Utah. IWC Roofing has been working up there for 27 years. They offer the best warranty in the business, backed by Owens Corning. What's most amazing is they'll replace your entire roof in one day. Instead of Chuck with a truck showing up for a week of chaos and mayhem, you get professionals. IWC Roofing is in, they're out, and they power wash your driveway just to say thank you. They'll even send pictures from the roof so you know exactly what you're getting for your hard-earned money. Now, you think a highly skilled Owens Corning Platinum Certified contractor would charge more, but no. IWC offers a better price, and if you call now, they'll give you an extra $2,000 off your quote. $2,000 off. So call IWC Roofing for a free estimate, 801-232-5690, 232-5690, or visit IWCRoofingUtah.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Heather Kelly.
We still have some unusual delays in Utah County. This is on Pioneer Crossing heading eastbound toward I-15. Now, I haven't heard of a crash, but there may be traffic lights that just aren't cycling properly. So you've got delays as you go from 300 to 850 East. 850 is also known as Mill Pond Road. And you've got those backups in the area. Otherwise, we've got a pretty good drive on I-15 throughout Utah, Salt Lake, and Davis counties, and no delays right now in Parley's Canyon. Support new budding art during Park City Gallery Association's monthly gallery stroll and bouquet build with flowers provided by local growers. See what's cropping up. Visit ParkCityGalleryAssociation.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Scattered showers, thunderstorms possible this afternoon, and more rain and mountain snow expected tomorrow. Today's high 68 in the 50s, Friday and Saturday. And right now, we're at 60 degrees. It's mostly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
For the last half hour, we've been talking about the SAT and the ACT, standardized testing in the nation. There's a conversation about whether or not they are beneficial. And colleges and universities are, in my opinion, sending a little bit of a mixed message about whether or not these are good, if they're valuable. Because in ninth grade here in Utah, your kid's going to take a mandatory ACT prep course. You can be prepared for that. And then they can take the ACT as a sophomore, as a junior, as a senior. In fact, Morgan, I don't know if you know this, at least in the Davis School District, in my kids' high school, they have Junior Appreciation Day, which is the day the juniors take the ACT. Everybody else gets the day off.
Oh.
Sophomores get off. Senior, they don't even need to show up to school.
Well, good for everybody else.
It's great. Everyone loves the juniors on that day. So
the juniors don't love the juniors. They don't love being juniors on that day.
Because they have to take a 4-hour test, something that millions of kids across the country are doing. The ACT specifically, it's 1.4 million kids will take the ACT every single year. So this is something. And the idea is that what? What do you understand? Like, what dots do you connect when you think, oh, we take the ACT because of this?
Well, I think historically there was this view that it's a baseline. It's a great, I think I've heard you in the past say it's a great equalizer, right? We have a standard. And with COVID, greater awareness of social dynamics, there was, it came into the conversation that maybe this isn't the great equalizer. Maybe this doesn't actually show us what we want to know about students, and colleges and universities took action.
And it wasn't just a few colleges and universities. Over 2,000 colleges and universities stopped requiring or measuring or weighing the ACT, the standardized testing, in their admissions process. In fact, even here in Utah, Utah State, University of Utah, and BYU have removed that requirement. And I wanted to know why, because I think there's some problems with the ACT and standardized testing. I don't think any kid should have to sit down for 4 hours and knock out a test. I think that is more endurance than knowledge. So I think there's some real problems with the way we administer the test. But I do like the standard. I like to know that if you understand calculus in New Orleans or in Utah, that we can say, oh, you understand calc. You get it. But I want to know why Utah has moved away from what I consider highly valuing the ACT or the SAT. So joining us right now from the University of Utah, Senior Associate Vice President for Enrollment Management, Steve Robinson. Thanks for joining us.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
All right. Help walk me through this. I know I've got your coworker, Morgan Lyon-Cotty, with me, so I'm very interested. Walk us through the thought process at the University of Utah and how you handle standardized testing?
Well, we wanted to give students the option. That was the big thing that we wanted to make sure of, that there, as for reasons that you all just mentioned, there's some students that really excel at testing. There are others that don't excel necessarily in a 4-hour examination. So we wanted students who did want us to know their scores to have that opportunity to present those to us. And we also had students who, if they didn't want to share that was okay as well. Before the University of Utah became permanently test optional, we spent a lot of time looking at what had happened since COVID. We became test optional because of COVID initially, but we've stayed test optional because of the research that we've been doing about what happens post-enrollment to students, who either submitted the test or did not. And what we found here at the University of Utah, and I only speak for my campus, is that GPA is a better indicator of success post-enrollment than a standardized test score. Now, that varies from campus to campus, obviously, based on the applicant pool. But what we're seeing consistently over the last 4 years is that, that's been the case here at the University of Utah. Now, certainly, as I said a moment ago, we want to remain optional. So if a student wants us to know their test score and they think that will strengthen their application, by all means, we would want to consider that. But we now know that it's not the best indicator of post-enrollment success, at least for the University of Utah.
So, Dr. Robinson, what are some of those other indicators? Being at the U, I watch these things closely, and I know we've had some incredible classes the past few years. They've been our most diverse and our most high-achieving incoming groups of first years. So how are you getting these incredible classes without relying on something that we looked at for decades and decades?
Well, I think it starts with how we recruit students. We are going out much further afield, much more often within Utah as well as in non-resident markets, talking to students about the University of Utah. We're attracting a larger applicant pool every year. In fact, this year we are breaking a new record with the number of students applying for our first-year class for this fall. I think it starts there with the types of students we're recruiting. We have more students expressing interest in attending the U, and because of the increased competition, that drives up, I think, the academic profile of our applicant pool a bit, and we're starting to see some of the impacts of that.
One concern that I would have, Dr. Robinson, by not heavily weighing the standardized testing, the ACT or the SAT, in lieu of in weighing the GPA in a bigger way, is Utah does not have a weighted GPA. So if I load up my course classes with a bunch of easy classes, and I don't take honors classes, and I don't push myself with AP classes, how would you find the best applicants? Because you could have a 3.5 kid that had 7 AP classes who's a rock star, but you wouldn't see that through a GPA.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And this is why we do transcript analysis, where we're looking at students that apply. We have what we call a holistic approach to admitting a student. We start with the numbers, the grade point average, the standardized test score, if we have it, and then we move from there to looking at other things like grade trends. I mean, did a student, academically excel all 4 years of high school, or were there dips and, valleys, that a student experienced? How about by subject? Were they strong in math throughout all 4 years, or did, calculus, as you mentioned earlier, stump them a bit? Those are some of the things that we look at. We also give students an opportunity to tell us about things that we may not immediately be able to find just by looking at their application materials. So there is actually a section of our application where we encourage students to talk about their academic experience, if there's some special factors that they want us to know about. And we take all of that and put it into our application decision process. Most of our decisions, are pretty easy, but this is why we have a holistic process, is that it's the hard ones where you want to spend a lot of time thinking about the student, not as just another applicant, but will they be successful here at the U once they get here?
So when we talk about this, it feels like this process, sometimes it sort of feels like an equation. But when the students are applying, it feels really personal. And especially because they're looking at their parents who are either Gen Xers or elder millennials who had very different experiences in the in the 90s. So what do you tell parents who ask you, what should I do? Should my kids be focusing on GPA? Should they be focusing on, extracurriculars or leadership? What is that advice you give to parents if you just have like that elevator pitch and they're just desperate to know what to do?
Well, I think that students should lean into both their talents as well as where they have opportunities for growth, because we're looking for, I think, and I believe I can speak for many campuses when I say this, is that we're all looking for very well-rounded students. Yes, we want those who have excelled academically, but leadership also takes other forms. The opportunity to be successful in college takes other forms, and we're looking for that as well. So this is where the extracurriculars come in for, public service, different things like that students tell us about as part of this application. And again, back to why, this is a holistic process, and it doesn't rest upon a simple equation. If we were doing it just on the numbers, it's a very easy kind of thing to make a decision on. These are not easy decisions because we are talking about individuals, but that's what I always tell parents and families and students when I'm talking to them is, lean into both where you do well, but also make sure that you're leaning into where you know that you could be stronger and working as much as you can on both of those things. That will make you the better applicant for the University of Utah and maybe any other campus that you're considering.
Dr. Robinson, thank you for joining us. Steve Robinson's the Senior Associate Vice President for Enrollment Management at the University of Utah. Thank you. Wow, what a great conversation. I think, as a parent looking at it, I wish there was a better playbook. I wish there was a path where I knew if I just checked all the boxes, if I took all the right turns and left turns, that it would lead me to the right destination. But right now in the college application process, especially for the upper tier, high-level Ivy League schools, it just feels so subjective to me, Morgan.
Well, and that's why in the previous segment, I really appreciated what Jamie was saying, that the test scores, the GPA, it felt objective. The extracurriculars, those other things feel subjective. But what we're learning is that they are looking at this holistic approach, and they really are wanting students to show they have, this well-rounded upbringing and education. And this is just new territory for all of the parents and all the kids trying to navigate it.
Up next, 1/4 of U.S. adults age 50 or older who are not yet retired say they expect to never retire. How about that, 50-year-olds? Geez, that's a dreary thought. Never retire? Let's learn more from ABC next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Here's a trick to podcasting at work and getting all the Utah news you love.
Download the KSL News Radio app.
The podcast for Utah's morning news and Dave and Debbie are right there. Dozens of podcasts a day.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Derek Overstreet, founder of the New Millennium Group. We're a financial planning firm. Listen, we're fiduciaries. We have advisors standing by right now to take your call. That's 888-999-6370. 888-999-6370. The reason you're going to want to call is we're going to help you retire 3 to 5 years before you thought possible. Now, imagine how that would be if you could actually retire 3 to 5 years sooner than your plan was. The way we do this is by putting together a step-by-step plan, taking into consideration any rental properties that you have, any pension income that you have, your Social Security. Listen, we put that all together for you in writing. It will allow us to build your income based on inflation. Inflation has been rapidly rising. You and I both need a plan that whatever we start out our income at, in 5 or 10 years, we're going to need 40% more income. So if you're one of those people listening and you'd like a plan in writing, give us a call at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370, or go to utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Before you hit the road, hit the KSL preset.
Going to work and back home?
Or running errands around town.
We tell you which roads will slow you down
and how to avoid them.
With traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 9s, KSL is a welcome backseat driver.
I'm Ricky Meese.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth.
We have you covered
on KSL News Radio.
Everyone's house is different, but they're all the same in one way. We all have those places where the Wi-Fi just won't go. I mean, for you, maybe it's the attic. For me, it's my basement. Well, if you had wall-to-wall Wi-Fi from Xfinity, you could worry less about these dead spots. Finally. With wall-to-wall Wi-Fi from Xfinity, you get fast speeds throughout your home, a reliable connection in every room, and power for all your devices, even when everybody's online. That's wall-to-wall Wi-Fi, only on the Xfinity 10G network. Get wall-to-wall Wi-Fi from Xfinity for a reliable connection throughout your home now through June 21st. New customers can get started with gig speed internet for $25 a month for 2 years with no annual contract and free Wi-Fi equipment included when you add unlimited mobile. Here's what you do. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, that's 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today.
It's that time of year. The Mother's Day Spring Expo at the Spanish Fork Fairgrounds is May 10th and 11th.
And admission is free.
Don't miss over 100 vendors with crafts, clothing, jewelry, children's books, candles, freeze-dried foods, tomato seedlings, gardening items, food trucks, and more.
Hi, this is Emily announcing that we still have space for a few more vendors. Go to rosecourtevents.com to apply. The Mother's Day Spring Expo at the Spanish Fork Fairgrounds.
When do we go?
May 10th and 11th.
For the right repair and the right paint, the right choice is manufacturer-certified Martins Collision Repair. Hi, I'm Tiago Martins. Many shops have ASC and ICAR certified technicians, but few have certifications by General Motors, Nissan, Chrysler, Hyundai, Jeep, and many others, making Martins your right choice. Online at martinscollision.com, on State Street in Orem and in Salem, we work with all insurance companies.
The right repair, the right paint, the right choice. Martins Collision Repair.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, do it now. Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Are you a skier who just decided to hang up the boards for another year and now you're wondering because you felt a little tweak in your knee or your hip, you wonder what that means to your next season of fun, maybe on a mountain bike or just out doing a hike? Let me tell you, the future of medicine is here in the Valley. It's QC Kinetics. They are the nation's leader in the most exciting revolution in pain management you've seen in decades. It's regenerative medicine. They're under the leadership of National Medical Director Dr. Mitchell Scheinkupp, a pioneer in this field with 20 years of clinical work, tons of research, teaching, and publishing. He wants to make sure you get relief without surgery or downtime. Regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics is transforming lives with innovative treatments that deliver lasting results. Call QC Kinetics today for a free consultation, and to learn more, call 385-766-1987. That's 385-766-1987. Call QC Kinetics today, 385-766-1987.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the U.S. Supreme Court hearing arguments today on whether a former president has absolute immunity for his actions in office. Second, troopers had a car stopped for DUI this morning when a truck came along and hit a trooper's vehicle, and that driver also arrested for DUI. Third, a consulting firm is recommending Alpine School District split in two. 60 degrees, mostly cloudy right now in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Let's talk to the 50-year-olds right now. If you're 50-ish, 50 light, did you know that a quarter of U.S. adults that are 50 years old don't think they're ever going to retire? That's an AARP survey. About a quarter, 25% of you think never retiring. Morgan, you're not 50, but
I'm not 50.
You're not even that close.
I'm creeping. But that's bleak, especially if you think of people who are 50, their parents are in their 70s, right?
Right.
Their parents are retired. They see what retirement looks like. So that's really discouraging that they're not seeing that future for themselves.
In part because that 25% or 25% of folks don't have any retirement savings. The research released Wednesday shows that we'll call it graying America. Graying America is worrying more about how they're going to meet these financial needs in the future. Brian Clark from ABC News joins us right now from New York. How big of an impact is the state of the economy in this discouragement?
It's a major impact because people are thinking that, okay, what used to cost $5 now costs $8 or $9, so their dollar is not going as far as it did. So that's a major concern. Another major concern from this AARP survey, 20% of adults in this age group say they have no savings for retirement whatsoever, and that's probably leading to why a quarter of them think they're never going to retire. So, yeah, the just economic conditions, they are absolutely a major factor.
Did the survey ask, or with your reporting, are there hopes that this can be turned around? Are people showing more inclination to start saving? Are they hopeful about the economy? What are your thoughts on that?
They actually are hopeful. About 33% of the people in this survey said that they think a year from now they'll be in a better financial position. At the same time, the reason the AARP is out behind this, the AARP is pushing Congress to take action because statistics and research have found people are far more inclined to save for retirement when they can access a plan through their job, 15 times more likely. But the problem is the AARP says 57 million people don't have that option through their job. So the AARP is pushing Congress to enact like a national retirement savings plan, different obviously than Social Security, but just a way for people to make these contributions. Some states have already taken these steps, but the AARP wants it to be national. So that's maybe where the big change or a quick change could come in.
Is there a sense of dread from the 50-somethings out there that they are too late? Because obviously if you start your retirement plan early on, the compounding interest, it pays off just enormously. Is there a sense that it's too late for me to start a retirement plan?
Not so much, or not that we've seen. And a lot of it, like I said, about 30% of people say they think that their financial situation is going to be better next year than it is right now. So maybe there is some optimism. But as you guys pointed out earlier, there is a big difference between people who are 50 and people who are 70. If you're 50 and you don't have anything, but you start now, by the time you're 70, you'll have something. I mean, that's better than nothing. And like you said, it'd be better the earlier you start, the better off you are. But if they start now, there's a chance you could save yourself, save enough money to retire at some point. You could take never off the table.
Brian, are there also concerns about some of those safety net programs? Are people worried that their Social Security, Medicare, that these programs won't be around to help them once they hit that retirement age?
So that has been a general concern, and this survey didn't really look too much at that, but we've seen a lot of messaging from Social Security that, you shouldn't be relying on it as it's going to be your primary source of income. They tell you to look at it as sort of a supplemental way to get some money coming in. But it all snowballs, and it all adds up. And another area where it adds up is these older people, and this might just go with the fact that the money doesn't go as far as it did. They're carrying more credit card debt. A year ago, it was 8% of people said they had credit card debt $20,000 or more. Now that's up to 12% of people in that 50 and up age group. So people are having to use credit cards to pay for some essentials or basic goods, and they're concerned about paying for health care. They're concerned about other caregiving costs, whether it's a spouse or a loved one, maybe even a parent, and these are real concerns.
Brian Clark, thank you for joining us, ABC News correspondent out of New York. And again, you talk about 12% of people having $20,000 or more in credit card at 18, 20, 25%. Like, how do you can see why people would feel, I'm never retiring. I'll be working till the day I die.
Yeah, I was trying to dive into some of those crosstabs and understand this poll a little bit more. And I did find that really interesting that I was expecting the debt to be mortgage and car payments, and we do see that. But that credit card debt is really important. We know that is something that has hit people in their 40s and 50s hard. These were people that when they were in college, they were being advertised the credit cards, and some of them got into bad situations really quickly. But a lot of times I think with society, we view the credit card debt as just stop spending. You're just out of control. But Brian made a key point that people are using those credit cards for some of these standard purchases, for groceries, for gas, because some people's incomes just have not kept up with inflation.
Yeah, inflation in Utah has added about, for the average family, about $800 additionally every month. And over the last 3 years, that's thousands and thousands of dollars, about $10,000 a year. You're buying the exact same stuff, But where's that extra $10,000 coming from?
And it's really hard to save when you don't have that money. And as Brian said, I think it'll be really interesting to see if this piece of legislation, if this policy idea of having this national savings plan can go through. Because if you work somewhere where it's just taken out of your paycheck, it goes into your savings or your retirement plan, and maybe your company, your employer matches that, maybe you don't think about that as much when you're dealing with inflation. But if this is something that you have to consciously do every month, it's going to make sense to your brain that, hey, I think we're going to focus on groceries rather than, future Morgan's problem of that retirement savings account.
Yeah, future Morgan's problem is not nearly as important as current Morgan's problem of how are we going to get a kid into this soccer league or piano lessons or whatever it might be.
Right.
And then if you start boiling it down even further to food and the necessities, a house, a car, transportation, current Morgan, current Dave wins out every time. Up next, getting down to the wire on Saturday. It's a big day for Democrats and Republicans as convention takes place. The money being raised for some of these races, outstanding, incredible, and a little bit horrifying even. Let's talk about that next.
It's 10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top local story this hour. A private consulting firm is telling the Alpine School District they think it would be best for the district to split in two. Lance Richards with MGT Consulting told the Alpine School Board the people they surveyed overwhelmingly wanted to keep it together.
I'll be honest with you, a majority of respondents, a majority of participants when you in the collective whole did vote for that and did register that response.
MGT initially proposed 6 different options for the future of the district between keeping it together or splitting into 2 or 3. Now, if the board votes to adopt the recommendation to split in 2, voters still have the final say. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Supreme Court hearing arguments today over how far immunity from criminal prosecution should extend for former presidents. Lawyers for former President Trump argue immunity is necessary for a president to take action in office. This issue has to be decided before the election interference case against the former president can go to trial. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down sharply today, 487 points right now. The NASDAQ is also down about 200 points. And our KSL weather, things are going to cool right off. That's next. KSL News Time, 10:32.
You know what's great about KSL's traffic coverage? Trained traffic reporters and real listeners.
Trading information and making the commute safer and faster for everyone.
Every 10 minutes on the 9s, we have you covered on KSL News Radio.
I like to dabble. I will call it that. I like to dabble in do-it-yourself projects. If you need me to dig a hole in the backyard, I can do that. What I can't do is play around with the electrical stuff. I'm just afraid I'm going to shock myself into the next room. It's why I call Master Electrical. They also have upfront pricing. Upfront pricing is phenomenal because I think we've all been bitten by those hourly bids where you have someone come out. They're like, oh, I'll knock that out in half a day. And then 1 week later, they're still working on the project. The bid has nothing to do with the invoice that you receive. Well, with Master Electrical and their upfront pricing, you are guaranteed to pay what the bid says. They'll do smoke detector, ceiling fans, lights, EV chargers, anything that has to do with electrical. Master Electrical can take care of you. They serve everyone from Logan to Santaquin, always open. Give them a call. It's the easiest number to remember. 801-543-2222. That's 801-543-2222. Or you can check them out online or Google them at masterelectrical.com.
Devotion to country, service to Utah. Brent Orrin Hatch had a front row seat, watching his father serve our state faithfully in the Senate. A constitutional conservative and lifelong Republican, Brent Orrin Hatch is a champion for the rule of law. He's running for Senate to stop this lawless president from destroying our country from within. Hatch will fight to secure the border once and for all and take on Mexican drug cartels to halt the flow of deadly fentanyl. Brent Orrin Hatch knows The national debt is just as big a threat to national security. Hatch won't rest until the budget's balanced and won't cave to the big spenders in both parties. Pro-life, deeply committed to religious liberty, rock-solid Utah conservative. Brent Orrin Hatch for Senate. Paid for by Conservative Outsider PAC, which is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. www.copac.us.
Up to a 30% upfront bonus and 12% per year guaranteed growth for retirement. I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and these are the highest guarantees with annuities I have seen in my life. When interest rates are this high, there are silver linings, and annuity guarantees are one of them. Up to a 30% bonus upfront for retirement income. On $100,000, that's up to $42,000 guaranteed in the first year. And it's because of the economy and its high interest rates. Don't let anyone, especially another financial advisor, tell you it's not true. Up to 30% upfront just for opening an account and up to 12% per year guaranteed income growth. Don't miss out. This won't last forever. If you have an old 401k, get up to 30% upfront and 12% guaranteed growth for income today.
Call 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600. Guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Heather Kelly.
We've got a little bit of delay right now northbound I-15 as you pass the Warm Springs Road area and head up toward the north interchange. Traffic almost at a stop in the right-hand lanes. It is moving in the far left, the HOV lane. Haven't heard of a crash in the area, but something is definitely holding traffic up through that stretch. Otherwise, you're going to have a good commute on all the major freeways right now across the Wasatch Front. Box Elder County has gone to the birds. Spring migration is here at Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge. See what visitors are chirping about with Box Elder County. For info, activities, and more, visit boxeldercounty.com. I'm Heather Kelly with traffic on KSL News Radio.
Scattered showers and thunderstorms possible this afternoon. More rain and mountain snow expected tomorrow. Today's high 68 and in the 50s Friday and Saturday. Right now, 63 degrees, partly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
If you're trying to move the chess pieces and trying to keep track of where everyone's at in Utah politics, it's nearly impossible. There's so much movement. Number one, let's talk about the open seats. You've got Congressional District 3. John Curtis is leaving because he's running for the Senate. Attorney General Sean Reyes isn't running for another term, so you've got a bunch of seats and candidates open for that. And then you have Mitt Romney not running, a third open seat, and what are we at? 8, 9 candidates for that. It is wild. And this Saturday, the Republican convention hopes to narrow down at least a little bit.
Well, it will definitely narrow it down. We'll see by how much. We have a couple of races which both have 3 candidates who already have gathered signatures and will be on the primary no matter what. But if we have 2 more candidates qualified through convention, we could see a 5-person primary.
That is incredible. That the dual path has changed things so much over the last couple of years, where you can go out, gather signatures, kind of force your way onto the primary ballot. You're definitely forcing your way on. You got to gather a lot of signatures, though, especially in the congressional races. You have to get like 7,000. If it's a statewide race, it's 28,000. That's changed a lot in politics.
It really has, and Dave was laughing at me because of my face when he said forced, because it is a legal process. But yes, you automatically qualify for the primary if you gather those signatures, and it is really difficult, and it has become pretty expensive. But with the convention, we used to use the language that Utah was the only state in the union where you could preclude a primary if you got 60% of delegate votes. You can still have that happen if people don't gather signatures, but we're seeing that less and less. We're seeing incumbents take precaution, gather those signatures, make sure they can get on that primary ballot. And we're seeing challengers make sure that they are also there.
And it has changed the way candidates are now spending money.
Yes.
So often when candidates were raising money, it was for radio or television ads or digital ads. Now they've got to raise money for signature gathering as well.
Yeah, in the Senate race, we do have a number of people running for Senate, but the candidates have already spent $7 million. Wow. And looking at the recent past, that definitely is a record for pre-convention spending. And the bulk of, the candidates that are raising the most and spending the most right now are those that have gathered signatures.
Let's talk a little bit more about money. There's some great information out there. You try to track it. And Democrats who are up against it, especially on the statewide races, the local congressional races, it's not a big surprise that Republicans, incumbents specifically, have a great advantage. But let's look at the governor's race. Somebody that you know well, Brian King, is challenging Spencer Cox, the governor, on the Democratic side.
Yeah, we've worked with Representative Brian King for many years. He's hosted many Hinckley interns and been a great mentor to those students. And he made some news yesterday. We saw the Republican all the candidates for these statewide races submitted their reports, and we could see how much they fundraised. And King's campaign is noting that, hey, since January, he raised more than Spencer Cox, and they're wanting people to take note of that and pay attention.
He raised $170,000. Governor Cox raised $155,000 in that same time frame. What stands out to me, though, in these numbers as you start breaking them down is, let's look at the average donation size. So Representative King had almost 1,300 donations, about $100, $130 on average, whereas Governor Cox had a fraction of that, 74 donations. Again, Representative King had 1,300, Spencer Cox had 74, but the average donation size was $2,100.
And that can be one of the benefits of being the incumbent, right? He also already has a very decent war chest. He's raised $1.7 million in total. On hand, he has $700,000, and that's after he's already gathered signatures. We'll see if he has a primary. So that is really interesting. He, as the incumbent, he can go to some of those big donors. But this is something that we've seen. Typically, the Democrats following Obama's lead in 2008 have focused more on those small donations, and they've figured out how to be successful with that. Trump has also figured that out, so it's not just a Democratic strategy. But this is something that some candidates are really focused on.
It keeps going higher and higher, how much it costs to run, especially even on a smaller scale for city council. Everything has just become more expensive. And I think we're obviously aware. Is there any way that you know of, or a way to scale this back? Because when I look at this and I think, I've got to raise $100,000 to run for this, or $50,000 or $10,000 to run for a smaller local election, I'm just not going to bother with it because that's significant money.
I don't see it getting scaled back. I certainly, even the past couple of cycles, I have seen people be very, very frugal and still win those local elections. Not even local. Well, yes, by local. We say state school board. Those are actually humongous districts. They're better. Right. They're bigger than the state Senate districts. But we've seen people still be successful with that, with really savvy marketing, with using their network. But we're also seeing some of these groups that help train candidates, whether they're nonprofit or for-profit organizations, really lean into training on how to fundraise. Because you are wanting to be a voice for the people, so you need to get the people's backing and get their financial support if you want to run.
One of the things and the benefits, I think, of the convention process is it doesn't require a lot of money up front. You can recruit, so to speak, enough delegates to get support, and you can do it on a shoestring budget. And we've seen candidates that have done that don't have high name recognition. I think specifically of Representative Celeste Malloy, who kind of went from a behind-the-scenes policy person, but did a great job at convention, garnering the support of delegates. And next thing you know, you don't have to have the big spenders, at least up front, to get the nod.
Yeah, I mean, hers, that was a nuanced, it wasn't necessarily about spending. She obviously got a huge endorsement from Congressman Stewart, and those were delegates that probably had been recruited by his campaign the year before. But to your point, especially for those legislative races, if you can focus more on delegates, it still takes money. You're still traveling around, you're still meeting with delegates, you're still buying the donuts, you're still doing all of these things. But there is the argument that, is it cheaper to try to get delegate support than to get those signatures? And is that worth the risk?
It is a risk, and we've seen that even on a state level, state lawmakers that have thought, oh, I'm an incumbent, I'm not going to gather signatures, I feel pretty safe. And then, sure enough, they get bitten by it, and they're out. They get primaried out.
Yeah.
So when we come back, I want to get your thoughts on what races you're keeping your eye on right now, especially as we're looking at convention. What piques your interest? What candidates do you find intriguing? Up next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
A lot of us are filling our workdays with podcasts.
When you're working, go to KSLNewsRadio.com.
Click on Dave and Debbie's podcast and pick a topic and story length.
Podcast with Dave and Debbie. Then get to work with KSL News Radio.
I grew up in a home where my dad was a therapist. He worked with kids that had alcohol and drug problems, so I saw firsthand the struggles, how difficult it could be, and specifically how difficult it was on the families. It's one of the reasons why Renaissance Ranch wants to provide some services for the families themselves. They know that research has shown when you have everybody, the loved ones, involved in a family member struggle through addiction, the chances of a positive outcome skyrocket. They offer free online classes. If you go to renaissanceranch.com, you can see classes that are taught for spouses, for parents, for couples. There's a women's support group. They're taught from a personal perspective. Renaissance Ranch teaches men and treats adult men. They have an amazing alumni following. They've been doing this for over 20 years. But again, their focus is really on treating the entire family. These free online support classes can be accessed at renaissanceranch.com. You can sign up, attend as many as you want, and get some skills, ask some questions, learn what you don't know. renaissanceranch.com.
Tonight on KSL.
That's a huge increase.
A lot of Utahns are getting sticker shock.
I called them up to ask them what was going on.
By the surging cost of insurance. News specialist Daniel Woodruff uncovers the painful truth.
I've been in the business 40 years and I've never seen this hard of a market.
And reveals the simple things you can do to drive the cost down.
Definitely paid off.
Surging insurance, an unaffordable Utah report. Tonight on KSL 5 News at 10.
The life of a small business owner. Keeping the lights on, calling all the shots. And then there's workplace accidents. 500-degree ovens, rusty nails. Danger lurks around every corner. Workplace accidents can happen, but there is an easy way to keep your employees covered. Talk to your agent about workers' comp coverage from Pi, or go to piinsurance.com and get a quote. Safety first, then Pi Insurance. Individual rates, offerings, and savings may vary, subject to policy terms and conditions. Not available in all states and situations.
Hey guys, do you know your T level? Revive Men's Health here in Salt Lake City is helping you take that first step toward better health and enhanced intimacy with a free testosterone level test, exam, and consultation. Plus, for this month only, qualified patients can kickstart their treatment with a free supply of ED medication. Revive's customized ED treatments can provide immediate results, restore blood flow naturally, and even bring spontaneity back into your love life. With both in-person and telemedicine appointments available, plus free shipping directly to you, Revive takes the hassle out of treating low T and ED. Having an optimal testosterone level can change your whole life, and it starts with knowing your T level. Take that first step and book your free testosterone test, free exam, and free consultation, and kickstart your treatment with a free supply of ED medication this month only. Call Revive Men's Health Salt Lake City at 801-263-7777. That's 801-263-7777 or visit ReviveMen'sHealth.com.
Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness.
Paid for by government. Did you hear? A secret hoard of 1907 $10 gold Liberty coins has been found. These gorgeous 1907p gold coins are as bright and shiny as the day they were struck, and less than 200 of these gold coins are available. Coin experts are calling the secret U.S. gold coin discovery a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and you can own a piece of the hoard. When you call, you are guaranteed a 1907 gold Liberty struck at the iconic Philadelphia Mint. With limited availability, you must call now. These 1907 dated gold coins are still in uncirculated condition with brilliant luster. That is 117 years of history you can hold in your hand.
To learn more, call 1-800-386-8018.
Call now and you'll receive a free bonus, a $50 value free with every order.
Call 1-800-386-8018 now
to secure your 1907p $10 gold Liberty coins before they sell out.
That's 1-800-386-8018.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bonas. First, a consultant is recommending Utah's largest school district be split in two. Voters in the Alpine District would have the final say. Second, a former Utah high school football star getting a 9-figure contract from the Detroit Lions. And third, the U.S. Supreme Court hearing arguments this morning on whether presidents have absolute immunity from prosecution for official actions in office. 63 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
I'm lucky today to have Morgan Lyon-Cotti filling in for Debbie Dujanovic today. She's the Associate Director at the Hinckley Institute of Politics, and we're going to keep talking politics because convention comes up this Saturday. The real drama happens on the Republican side. Right? There's so many candidates out there, and it is wide open. It is wide open. I want to know, what is catching your eye? What races are you looking at? And is there some dark horse candidates out there that you're looking at and thinking, oh, they might have a chance after all?
That is...
I asked 12 questions in there. I'm sorry.
It was fantastic. The dark horse is tricky with convention because there's not polling of delegates.
Yeah.
And so it's just so much of the analysis and trying to project what will happen is based on word of mouth and anecdotes and who's talking to delegates, who did a good job recruiting. So it's really hard to tell who is going to be a dark horse. What I'm watching, really, what I'm so fascinated by are the Senate and the 3rd congressional races. These are both open seats. I love an open seat. It drives up voter turnout. People get engaged and excited. But in both those races, we have 3 candidates that have already qualified, and 3 is a crowded primary. 4 is a really crowded primary. But we could, for the first time in Utah's history, we could see 5 candidates in a primary, which means you could win with like 25% of the vote.
Congressional District 3 is fascinating because John Curtis was extremely popular.
Yes.
It was very, I don't want to say every time he ran it was easy because anytime you're running that's difficult.
It's not, and he would say no.
It's not easy,
it's never
Dave.
Easy.
He joined us yesterday, and I get it, especially when you're running in the House. You're running, all the time, because you're up every 2 years. So he's decided he wants to go for Mitt Romney's seat, or that seat. It's not Mitt Romney's seat. I get it, folks. But anyway,
we know what you're saying.
He's moving on. Who intrigues you? Who do you think in that 3rd congressional? Who do you think has a chance? Because again, when you start talking about a handful of candidates, that makes things very exciting.
Yeah. Well, first, the overall interesting thing about the 3rd district is this. In recent years, this is our most primaried district. Congressman Curtis didn't have a primary in 2020, but since that seat changed, since Congressman Chaffetz stepped down in 2017, we've had a lot of primaries. And so those voters are used to watching for this, used to vetting these candidates. This is interesting because we have 3 that have qualified with signatures. We have Case Lawrence, John Dougal, and J.R. Byrd. But what is interesting to me is that former Congressman Chris Stewart has endorsed Stewart Pay. And Stuart Pay also sought signatures. I've been watching it. I don't think he's hit that 7,000 mark yet. He's very close. So I'm curious to see, are we going to see that convention bump for Stuart Pay? We saw, as we were speaking previously, that really helped Celeste Malloy. I think you can pretty easily argue that Chris Stewart's endorsement and very key local official endorsements she got last year helped win her that race.
John Dougal's interesting because as state auditor, he received more votes than any politician in history, in Utah history. Everyone loved the John Frugal Dougal. You'll remember that. It comes in quotation marks, John Frugal Dougal. He's been our state auditor for a number of years, decided to step down, not run again for the state auditor, to run for Congressional District 3. He was a state legislator as well, so he's very familiar in local politics, has been certainly popular as state auditor. What do you think about him?
Name ID is so crucial, especially in what we call like low information elections. It's, even though, as I said, these 3rd district voters, they're savvy. They know to watch for these primaries. They know how to do their research. But at the end of the day, people are busy and they look for shortcuts and they look for cues when they're voting. And if they recognize a name, if that name has positive association with them, and the auditor isn't too controversial of a position, they haven't heard negative stories about him, they may be inclined to vote for him based on that, and they may be inclined to receive positive information about him, as he's campaigning, that will help boost him.
It was the greatest marketing ever. If you're the state auditor and your nickname's Frugal, here in Utah, that is a slam dunk. And it's something I didn't realize is you could actually put that on a ballot because it would show up as John Frugal Dougal.
If anybody wants to go to the state elections website and you can look at every single candidate that has filed throughout the state, there are a lot of nicknames on there. And when it just ends up happening to be also like a campaign tagline or slogan, helps you even more.
It does. Okay, so that's the 3rd district. Also, the Senate race. What stands out to you in that one?
Again, we're seeing some big names. We have John Curtis, who is mayor of Provo, member of Congress. We have Brad Wilson, who was Speaker of the House. Speakers of the House have found it harder to reach those higher state level positions we've seen. Some have been successful. Rob Bishop was Speaker of the House, and then he ran for Congress. But Greg Hughes will tell you, your name ID isn't what you think your name ID is. That said, Brad Wilson has been involved in some very high-profile policy issues like the Great Salt Lake and other things. So those are really the two I'm watching there.
It's so interesting with Brad Wilson, and we're actually going to speak to the former speaker later on in the show. But it's fascinating because you can look at his history and his record and what he did as speaker and the things that he championed in tax cuts in a way that not a lot of candidates can point to a record of what they've stood for, what they've focused. Does having a name, I apologize, but quite frankly, as generic as Brad Wilson, it's not, does that name recognition, does that kind of blend in at all, do you think?
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, that actually makes me think of events we've done at the Hinckley. And if you get Malcolm Gladwell, that's such a unique name. Everybody knows who he is. But some authors or some political commentators maybe do have some more generic name, and then we're struggling. I hadn't thought about that with Speaker Wilson. Honestly, I think the thing that, when I speak to political insiders, the thing that comes up the most is that, he was going to run as, sort of the center right. I've got these conservative credentials, but I also work on these other things. Everybody identifies with the Great Salt Lake. But now he's having to sort of work around Brent Orrin Hatch, who is taking up some of that space. And people have argued that it's pushing Brad Wilson farther right than he actually is. So that's what I'm watching to see who's threading that needle right, who can speak to the delegates with that more conservative language, and then, as happens with every election and every candidate, sort of move a little more center for those primary voters.
Now, gathering signatures for this race is incredibly difficult. I believe you need 28,000 signatures for this race.
Yeah. And there's only so many signatures to go around. Right. You can't sign more than one of these signature packets for a different candidate. So how many highly engaged Republicans are there that you can actually get signatures from?
Can I say that's my pet peeve? That I can only sign one name.
And it's confusing for people because you can sign as many ballot initiatives as you want. And maybe you like two candidates. You want to see them both on the primary, but you can't.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well,
this is before the primary.
Talk to your legislator if you'd like to see that changed.
I have talked to them. I've let them know. And I want to be able to sign as many petitions as I want, because I might like John Curtis, Brad Wilson, Trent Staggs, and Brent Orrin Hatch. And then I'll figure it out. But I want to see them on the primary. I want to hear more from them. So, Morgan, thank you. Are you out of here?
I'm out of here. It's been fun.
Well, I appreciate it. The last couple of hours, Morgan Lyon-Cotti is the Associate Director at the Hinckley Institute of Politics.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. We have breaking news. Diesel fuel from a semi-crash in Parley's Canyon earlier today spilled into Parley's Creek, and now it's traveled downstream to Tanner Park, as well as to the pond in Sugar House Park. Salt Lake City firefighters have a hazardous materials team on the scene to deal with that spill. We also have a reporter on the way to tell us more about it. The two major political parties having their state conventions this Saturday in Salt Lake. The candidates they pick will advance to Utah's primary election in June. Democrats gather at Cottonwood High School. Republicans are meeting at the Salt Palace. And our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Supreme Court hearing arguments today on whether a former president should have legal immunity for actions taken while in office. Justice Samuel Alito asked about the effects of opening up a president to prosecution.
Will that not lead us into a cycle that destabilizes the functioning of our country as a democracy?
Lawyers for former President Trump say a president needs that guarantee of immunity to take action while in office. Looking at your money at this moment, the Dow down 453 points today, while the NASDAQ is down 167 points. And our KSL weather looks like sunshine will turn to clouds and possibly rain. That's next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
We hope you have the right app on your phone for news. You probably have dozens.
But the KSL News Radio app, well, it makes our live stream super easy.
Plus, our talk shows are right there as podcast for your workday.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Progressive presents 10 things on a plumber's to-do list that are harder than getting a small business insurance quote. Waking up for 5 a.m. plumbing disasters, finding out why water is pouring from the ceiling, replacing a pipe in a home from the 1800s, then dealing with invoices or your awkward apprentice or that really weird smell, and then there's breathing and eating and, of course, clogs. But the easiest thing on any small business owner's to-do list? Seeing if you could save on the business insurance that's right for you. Get a quote in as little as 7 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliated and third-party insurers.
Angie's List is now Angie, and we've heard a lot of theories about why.
I thought it was an eco move. Fewer words, less paper.
No, it was so you could say it faster.
No, it's to be more iconic.
Must be a tech thing. But those aren't quite right. It's because now you can compare upfront prices, book a service instantly, and even get your project handled from start to finish.
Sounds easy.
It is, and it makes us so much more than just a list. Get started at Angie.com. That's ANGI, or download the app today.
Stop for a moment and think about this. Do you know how much money in your 401k or IRA is actually yours? Or will the government take a bigger chunk than you thought? Remember, you still might owe taxes on that money. But do you have a plan to help make sure you don't pay more than you should? At Capital Wealth Advisors, we believe you deserve to keep more of what you've earned, which is why we're here to help you navigate the confusing world of retirement taxes. It's your money. You deserve to know what's at stake. Right now, taxes are historically low, but they won't be this low forever. So call the Capital Wealth Advisors team today so you don't miss out on this opportunity. 801-210-5500. That's 801-210-5500. You work hard for your money, and we'll work just as hard to help you keep it. Capital Wealth Advisors, 801-210-5500. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor. Firm may not give tax advice.
Springtime in Utah, and if you're a business owner that hates to paint, do what business owner Al did. He called Rhino Shield.
I was watching TV one night and saw the Rhino Shield ad, and I thought, well, if they can do a house, they can probably do a building.
Rhino Shield ceramic technology is formulated for our unique climate here in Utah and is Class 1 fire rated.
So they came out and they gave me a price, showed me how the Rhino works, how it lasts, and how the guarantee works.
Utah residential or business, get the 25-year guaranteed protection of Rhino Shield right now for 15% off the regular price.
They waited for us to leave, and they worked Saturday and Sunday so they wouldn't affect our business at all. This was the great part of it. I came back Sunday night, and you couldn't even tell they were here. There was no paint on the ground. They did a fantastic job.
Utah, this offer is limited, so call 435-246-4466, 435-246-4466, or visit rhinoshieldwest.com.
Go Rhino Shield.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. We have emergency traffic. Here's Ricky Meese.
It's a crash with debris, and right now crews are sweeping up gravel on the roadway northbound I-15 at the I-215 North interchange in North Salt Lake. Right now, 2 left lanes of travel are open at the North interchange. However, we have stop-and-go delays that are passing Warm Springs Road. If you want to consider an alternate route, Highway 89 might be an option, as well as Redwood Road. The best-kept secret is this is the pass. It's a pass for fun for everyone. Now through April 30th, save $20 off every annual pass level. 362 days of fun. Visit thisisthepass.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Scattered showers and thunderstorms possible this afternoon, and more rain and mountain snow expected tomorrow. Today's high 68, in the 50s tomorrow and Saturday. 62 degrees right now, mostly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Boyd Matheson in the house. No Debbie Dujanovic, so it's just the boys today. We're going to be able to really have some conversations. Boyd said, "We talking about sports, right?" That's an interesting topic. Boy, that's a great pitch. I would rather talk about Social Security.
Yeah. I don't even know you anymore, Dave.
Who are you?
Who
Thought
are
we're
you
gonna
today?
bond, have some conversation.
Social Security.
You had such a great conversation yesterday, and I was listening to your guest, and he started bringing up so many great questions about the future of Social Security, how to prepare for it, how to prepare for a life when we run out of money in Social Security in 10 years, which is just about inevitable. But why do you tackle this? Because I don't know if you got the memo. Anytime you talk about Social Security reform, everyone hates you.
Yeah. And you get a primary challenger.
And you get a primary challenger every single time. You're like, I'm going to address Social Security. They're like, and we enjoyed your service. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so crazy. And all you have to do is think back to the State of the Union, the last 2 State of the Unions, where President Biden has raised Social Security. He's tried to use it as a weapon against the Republicans, saying, oh, they're going to push grandma off the cliff and they're going to take away your Social Security. And then, of course, everybody says, oh, no. We're going to deal with $34 trillion in debt. We're going to deal with deficit spending, but we're not going to talk about Social Security because we don't want to lose the political point. And that's why nobody's really talking about it. And that's why our conversation yesterday with Chris McIsaac from the R Street Institute is how do we start to get to that? Because as you mentioned, Dave, in 10 years, something is going to happen. And so everyone's saying, I'm not going to do anything to hurt seniors. I'm not going to do anything. If Congress fails to act, they will do a big thing to all the seniors because the cuts will happen automatically or all the benefits go away. And so if you're really out to help somebody, you help by taking on difficult issues, not by avoiding them. Or I always think in Congress there's sort of this hope strategy. We hope this will change, or we hope the economy will pick up, or we hope we'll find this magic pot of, it's all magic thinking.
Yeah.
Hope is not a strategy. And you have to have leaders who are willing to have the uncomfortable conversation, especially when it comes to Social Security.
One of the things I remember, and I was in my 20s when this happened, but it was George W. Bush, and he wanted to address Social Security reform. Yeah. And I never really thought about it. I was in my 20s, but he started talking about it, and one of his solutions, and this is one of the things I truly appreciated. There was an actual solution I could wrap my head around.
Yeah.
Where he said, let's take a portion of the Social Security that we're taking, and you can invest it yourself. And this goes directly to you. And I thought, oh, wow.
That makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. But the problem is right now is the situation we're in with Social Security. So much of our money that is going into Social Security, it's not being squirreled away for Dave Noriega.
Right.
It's paying for my mom.
Yeah, that's right. It's a pay forward thing. It's the current workers are paying for those that are already retired, which is a completely messed up system based on things from 50 years ago that no longer even apply. And so we have to start looking at unique ways to go about it. And one of the ways that we explored yesterday was actually to look back to the states. I know federalism is cool again. That's part of my job. If we don't get a federalism comment, it doesn't count as an interview.
If it was Mike Lee, it would be Federalist Paper 97-2.483 says.
No, but if you just get it back to the states, and one of the examples really interesting that our Street Institute pulled out was Utah dealing with pension reform. And you can remember back.
Remind me.
You remember you had Dan Lillenquist, the state legislature, pensions across the country are in really bad shape.
Trouble, right.
But Utah said, we're going to deal with it. And so they got creative. They went through the process. They had open debates. They had transparency. And now that's kind of a model for a lot of these states that are literally sinking themselves because their pensions are just bust. And so it was a model, again, state-led model. I think this is another area where Utah will lead out. And our legislature has continued to do things like that. And I would love to see state legislators, state leaders come forward and say, you know what, if we were doing this, this is how we would go. This is how we would attack Social Security. And I guarantee you we'd get some pretty interesting, worthwhile to explore solutions that come out of it. But right now, everyone is so afraid politically to talk about it, that we continue to not have the conversation, and we continue to demonize who's going to be the evil, awful person to push grandma off the cliff.
And I keep going back to this George W. Bush, and he said, we should trust Americans by giving them the option of investing part of their Social Security options into private accounts. We should trust Americans.
Yeah.
And that is something that we just aren't doing right now. In part because we have proven untrustworthy in some ways.
Yeah.
We keep electing individuals that clearly do not care about reining in the national debt or having these tough conversations about how are we going to fund Social Security? How are we going to continue offering these benefits for Medicaid, Medicare? And so we are to blame in some ways. I'm just not quite sure what that solution looks like.
And there's a lot of possible solutions out there in terms of, changing the retirement age. Everybody always panics about all of that. And of course, anything that gets implemented isn't going to affect current people who are on Social Security. Probably wouldn't even impact those that are going to be there in the next 10 years. You got to have a ramp up and an on ramp, so to speak. But there's a lot of things you can get creative with that I think could give people confidence in it. I mean, if you're a young person today, the chances of you seeing Social Security, you probably have a better chance of seeing Elvis walk out of the building than getting a Social Security check in your 60s or 70s because it's just not real. And so we have to have people who are willing to stand up and speak out. As you were talking, I was thinking back, there's a great quote by Adlai Stevenson who said, we are on the eve of great decisions, not easy decisions. Let's speak truth to the American people. Not what we're against, but what we're for. And if we do that, then we can get to the right thing because it's not who leads us, it's what leads us. It's what principles, what policies. It's supposed to have the courage to say, you know what? This is what I'd love to hear from somebody. Who would be willing to say, I'm willing to lose my job in the House or the Senate to get this done because this is so important? And that's the question we should be asking everybody is, what is it that would make all of this worthwhile, even if it cost you your job?
This is something that I saw happen from French President Emmanuel Macron, where he said, the numbers don't work, folks. You can't keep retiring at 60. We're going to bump it up all the way to 62, or it was 62 to 64. You know, it was something like this. They were having riots in the street, like bonfires in the middle of the street, and he didn't cave. He said, no, the math works.
Math always wins.
The math always wins. And I thought it was one of the great examples of political courage that I have seen in a long time, because he didn't back down. He said, this has to happen, and you have to wrap your head around it.
Yeah, the two things we have to really interject into our governing as a country, and at the local level as well, is the math always wins. So we have to be real about the math, because you can't change the math. So we have to put increasing revenues on the table. That has to be on the table. Maybe we just need to do it some way. You can get creative about that. And we got to look at what the benefits are, when they kick in, all that. You have to put those two things on the table, because otherwise, not talking about it, not making a decision is a decision.
Yes.
And we have the absolute predictability of consequences. And the absolute predictability of consequences for all of those who are out there beating their chest saying, I'm watching out for seniors, I'm watching out for my grandma and your grandma. They're not being honest, because the absolute predictability of the consequences of inaction is that those people, especially the poor and the most vulnerable, are going to be hurt the most if we don't get to the crucial conversation.
And I would absolutely, at 49 years old, say, okay, you can delay my retirement for a couple of years if you could get some sort of budget spending under control, because if you delay everything, if you put me out till I'm 70 years old or 72 years old, and you still keep spending, and you just take that money and spend it on a different program, that doesn't help anybody. Boyd, thank you. It was a great conversation.
Best non-sports conversation we've ever had.
It's a great non-sports conversation, but in between, once I'm off the air, we'll catch up. Thanks, Boyd. So when we come back, we have a chance to talk to Senate candidate Brad Wilson. This segment of the Dave and Dujanovic Show is brought to you by Window World of Utah. Today you can get the best value in windows and doors, and that's no baloney.
Dave and Dujanovic.
You know KSL is the only news radio for your car, right?
The only news radio for your smart speaker.
Come here in the morning. It's the latest news and traffic. In the afternoon, news and updated weather.
We have you covered at KSL News Radio.
It's been a rough winter for sure, but visitors are flocking to Box Elder County. Our feathered visitors, that is. Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge is busy hosting swans to swallows, geese to grebes. The spring migration is in full swing, and all that's missing is you. Box Elder County really is for the birds. Just a short 60 minutes north of Salt Lake, Box Elder County is the perfect place to make memories and celebrate spring, along with spending time with our feathered friends. You'll experience amazing restaurants and unique shopping. Come take a soak at Crystal Hot Springs, home to the highest mineral content of any natural hot springs in the world. Let the winter melt away as you relax and rejuvenate. Take in a theater performance at one of the live theaters or visit one of the fine museums. Visitors really are chirping all about Box Elder County. Check out visitboxeldercounty.com and see why Box Elder County is for the birds. That's boxeldercounty.com.
It rattled homes for miles.
A homeowner apparently called a friend and said basically, hey, I've got a bunch of old dynamite around, handed down through the family.
Evacuations and 2 explosions.
Crews responded and they said they found there was no safe way to remove it, so they had to detonate it this morning inside the home.
When you need to know or know more, come here.
I haven't seen that in the fine print on any homeowner's insurance plan.
We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
When the weather warms up, it's like a stampede, except instead of dust stirred up by hundreds of hooves, it's a cascade of phone calls to Advanced Window Products. This is Jeff Kaplan. Soon as the sun shines and the snow's gone, people want new windows and frames from Utah's #1 custom window maker, and the wait for installation grows longer. But right now, you can get near the front of the line by calling for a quote and get $2,500 off when you purchase 10 windows or more. That's on top of the incredible savings for the highest quality double-pane windows and frames, any style, any color. See, at Advanced Window Products, they actually build the windows here in Utah. They install the windows, and they guarantee them for life. There's no middleman, and they can pass the savings on to you. They even offer buy now, pay later. So get in before the wait grows longer and get the $2,500 off. Get your new windows this spring. Make the call. Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100. Or visit advancedwindowsusa.com.
Now your ideas don't have to wait. Now they have everything they need to come to life. Dell Technologies and Intel are creating technology that loves ideas, loves expanding your business, evolving your passions. We push what technology can do, so great ideas can happen right now. Find out how to bring your ideas to life at Dell.com. Welcome to Now.
Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster? Because it's not a matter of if, but when. Don't find yourself saying,
when the storm rolls in, my time to find a pet-friendly evacuation center will have run out.
The scorching heat wave will leave me powerless to cool my insulin.
I'll face a hurricane without meds. Now that's a tough pill to swallow.
Let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell. Get started at ready.gov/older adults. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
If your roof is over 15 years old or hasn't been inspected in the last 5 years, you might be at risk of leaks. Many wait until water damage occurs to seek help. With Master Roofing's proprietary repair and restoration process, they can significantly extend your roof's life. Don't wait for a disaster. Call the Masters at 801-383-0072 or visit masterroofingutah.com for a free assessment today.
Any Hour Services can help unclog any drain in your house, whether you have a backup, a clog, or a slow drain you want fixed. Call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Looking for a secure retirement plan without market risk? Look no further. Lyle Boss, president of Boss Financial, specializes in no market risk retirement strategies with guarantees of principal, guaranteed growth, and lifelong income. Join Lyle right here each Saturday and Sunday for his Safe Money radio show, and call him now at 855-355-SAFE for your complimentary customized Safe Money information kit and Safe Money book. Nothing but upside here at 855-355-SAFE.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, hazmat teams are dealing with a fuel spill that's traveled downstream to the pond in Sugar House Park. Second, Utah's major political parties hold their state conventions this weekend. And third, the U.S. Supreme Court hearing arguments on whether former presidents have legal immunity for actions they took while in office. 62 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Mitt Romney decided after one term in the Senate, he was done. Got elected, and after 6 years, washed his hands of the whole deal. He's like, I'm not running for another one, which is not just rare here in Utah, very rare in the United States to have a one-term senator. So that open seat has now opened things up for a lot of different candidates. This Saturday will be the Republican convention. And joining us right now is Senate candidate Brad Wilson, former Speaker of the Utah House.
It's so great to be with you, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Okay, there's so much I want to talk to you. I'm going to try to narrow it down because over the years we've had so many great conversations. And now that you've moved on, you've stepped down as Speaker of the House, you've been a very successful businessman, but now you're tackling what is largely the most unpopular job in America, which is U.S. politician.
Yeah.
You didn't learn your lesson on the Hill?
Well, what I learned up there, honestly, is that if you lean into the big issues, you talked about this in your last segment, actually. If our politicians lean into the big issues, they actually can proactively make a really big difference in the world and in our state and in our country. And for some reason, that's in short supply in Washington. And I want to go back there and fight for Utah, fight for our values, and try to maybe set an example of how to fix some of the mess that's in D.C.
There is this strange thing going on right now in Utah, in not just Utah politics, but politics in general. There's such an animosity or anger or frustration with politicians for any number of reasons. We've almost done an about-face, a U-turn, and we start looking at somebody that isn't a politician. We start valuing, we look at Donald Trump. He was a businessman. He's not part of the swamp. He's this or that. And we say, that's the man I want leading us. While too easily dismissing the fact that he had no experience, doesn't have a track record, he doesn't necessarily know how to legislate or how to get things moved politically. Why aren't we valuing experience and track records in politics?
Well, I think we should. I mean, if you look at, for example, my situation here, as Speaker of the House here, I was able to bring, I think, some major conservative wins for the state of Utah, whether it was the biggest tax cuts in the history of the state, whether it was protecting women's sports, whether it was constitutional carry, whether it was putting in place the strongest pro-life laws in America. I mean, these are all conservative wins that a lot of conservatives would love. And I'm going to be the same conservative Brad Wilson in D.C. that I was in Utah. But there is this sentiment, and I think it's interesting. If you're going to go get a root canal, you don't want to go get a root canal from someone that's never done the work before. And
this is my first one.
Yeah. And,
just grab the drill.
And we know that Washington needs a lot of root canals, right? And sending someone back there that's actually been in the fire, is tested and trusted to do the work is, in my opinion, what this is all about. And the other thing that you brought up is there's this animosity, and I think it's well-founded animosity about the swamp, about Washington, D.C. insiders. And it's interesting. I mean, if you look at even this Senate race, there's a number of candidates that have had millions of dollars of Washington, D.C. super PAC money put into their campaigns, whereas 90% of my money's come from Utahns. This is a Utah-based campaign. And do we want to have candidates that are propped up by the swamp and Washington, D.C. elected to represent Utah in the Senate? I don't think so.
We're speaking with Senate candidate Brad Wilson. You know him as the former House Speaker, the state legislature. And as we look at your candidacy, I've asked this of every candidate so far, and I say nothing matters. Like you can win an election, you can win a seat, you can be as conservative as you want, but nothing gets done if you can't work with the other side. It doesn't matter how much you want or how conservative the legislation you write is. If you can't get the other side on board, then none of it matters. Mm-hmm. Then it's just posturing. Is there something that you see, some area where you think you can bring a common sense approach to Democrats and get them on board? Is there anything out there that you think, yes, this is the policy I think we can actually get movement on?
Yeah, it's such a good question. And I actually think you have to even step back one step further. And as a Republican, I've got to be able to go back to Washington and work well with the other Republicans, because Republicans need to work better together. And then, of course, work with your colleagues across the aisle. As Speaker of the House here in the state of Utah, I had a challenge. I had 61 Republican members of my caucus. To get them to all work on the same issues and get in alignment was not easy. But I got elected twice unanimously as Speaker of the House here. Never happened in the history of the state before. And that just shows that even though people didn't agree with me on every issue, they trusted me to be straight with them.
When you say they trusted you, how do you earn that trust, or how do you gain it without alienating? Because especially in leadership positions, every time you make a decision, somebody's going to be angry about it. How do you maintain that kind of trust?
Yeah, it's there's no rocket science to it. There's a lot of things, though. You don't negotiate in the media. You negotiate directly. You never weaponize people's values against them. You try to understand where people are coming from, and then you work one lawmaker at a time. Here's the deal. Being a lawmaker, there's two things you do. You vote yes, you vote no. The vote no, really important. It's a big part of the job. It's not, though, as hard as the yes vote. The yes vote is when you're trying to get something accomplished, it's lawmaking by addition. You have to bring people with you one at a time to get the big problems of our country solved. And that is a skill set that I have that I think is an advantage if we send me back to Washington.
We just saw that the House, the Senate, they finally came to an agreement as far as foreign aid spending, Ukraine, Taiwan, Israel. There was a similar bill out there that actually would provide that kind of funding, foreign aid funding, war fighting funding, as well as securing the southern border. Mm-hmm. but the House of Representatives rejected the Senate bill. It seems like they ended up in the same place, but had given away any southern border security. What are Republicans doing? Because it seems like the result was the same. You still passed the foreign aid funding, but all you did is you neutered any kind of help for the southern border.
It demonstrates how our priorities are backwards in Washington, D.C. I mean, we've got to take care of our own border. We've got to take care of things at home before we're able to be strong enough and able to help others. And it's fundamentally just a principle that exists in life, and it should exist in our government as well. And the border is a big issue. It needs to be closed. We know that we've had 10+ million people here come here illegally, and it's creating a real burden on the United States. And our members of Congress have got to see that. They've got to put partisanship aside and get this issue resolved.
Are you ready for Saturday?
I'm ready. We're excited.
It's going to be exciting. Well, we appreciate you taking the time. You've always been so accessible. I appreciate that. And answering all our questions here on the David Dujanovic Show. Even when they're not always so fun, I appreciate your candor.
Hard questions are good.
They are good.
Yeah.
Brad Wilson, thank you for joining us.
Thanks,
Candidate for U.S. Senate, and the former Speaker of the House here in Utah.
It's 11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bonitz. KSL's top local story this hour. Salt Lake City fire officials on the scene in Sugar House Park after fuel from a truck in Parley's Canyon apparently reached the pond there. The accident near East Canyon happened around 4 this morning. First responders initially told us the fuel there had been contained. We do have a reporter on the way, and we'll provide more details as soon as they're available. In Duchesne County, the sheriff's office has released a composite sketch of a woman they've been trying to identify for more than 20 years. We have details from KSL News Radio's Don Brinkerhoff.
Investigators found the woman's remains while executing a search warrant in the northwest part of the county in 2001. While they originally thought she may have been Native American, it was later discovered she was Hispanic, between 17 and 25 years old.
Investigators are hoping someone will recognize the woman through the sketch, and you can see that at KSLNewsRadio.com. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Harvey Weinstein will likely stay behind bars even though his sexual assault conviction has been overturned by a court in New York. He's also been convicted in California, and he'll now be sent there to serve that sentence. The Dow Jones average now down 437 points on the day. The NASDAQ has dropped 165. And coming up, we'll be looking at more clouds and cooler temperatures. That's next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
It's a priority for us at this station to bring you all sides of a story and to talk about the news fairly, completely.
Get all the facts and be really aware. Utah's Morning News with us, Tim and Amanda.
Weekday mornings 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
I've got Adam Kirkham, president of the Utah Association of Realtors, here to talk about changes to the home buying process because of a national settlement. Adam, what does the settlement mean for Utah home buyers?
Dave, we don't know exactly how everything will play out, but we do expect to see some changes starting in July, which include the requirement that a buyer will need to sign a formal representation agreement with their realtor at the start of the home buying process.
What other changes should buyers expect?
Utah buyers will likely see, as a result of this settlement, some additional complexity to the negotiation process and paperwork.
I get a little nervous when you say added complexity, but maybe that is why it's so important to use a realtor.
Yeah, a realtor is there to help you navigate those complexities. Not just this change from the settlement, but what is the best price for a home or what concessions and value. Your realtor will also help you manage all of this paperwork and negotiations so you don't have to do it on your own.
Well, thanks, Adam. You can learn more at utahrealtors.com.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. Did you know that we offer 3 distinct styles of gutter protection? Each one meant to handle a specific leaf problem. You might not even know there are different styles of gutter protection, but there are. And if you pick the wrong one, it could be a huge waste of money. Now, the big gutter guard companies won't tell you this. They try to sell you a one-size-fits-all gutter guard. And it could be completely wrong for the amount and types of trees and leaves you have. Not RGS Exteriors. We understand which kind of leaf problem needs which kind of gutter guard. We'll do an in-depth evaluation to assess the types, locations, and numbers of trees in your yard. Based on that data, we match your home to the right gutter guard. So don't risk wasting money on the wrong gutter protection. For a free evaluation and estimate, call RGS Exteriors at 801-280-3110 or visit rgsexteriors.com. That's 801-280-3110 or rgsexteriors.com.
For over 10 years, IVC has been holding an event to celebrate women. Mark your calendar for Saturday morning, May 4th, to attend IVC's annual Mother's Day event, where you'll receive a complimentary assessment, which includes an ultrasound exam and consultation with one of IVC's board-certified physicians. If you're experiencing any pelvic or leg achiness, heaviness, or pain, this event is a perfect opportunity to get some answers and some relief. Give yourself the attention you deserve. Pelvic congestion syndrome, or pelvic venous congestion, is an important but often overlooked cause of chronic pelvic pain. And chronic leg achiness and pain are often symptoms of varicose veins. Don't worry anymore. The physicians at IVC can help. IVC has been named the best vein center in Utah Valley for over 10 years in a row. Don't delay. Space is limited. Go to ivein.com or call 801-379-6700. IVC. Life starts when the pain stops.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
We have a vehicle fire. It's a semi southbound I-15 just after Antelope Drive in Layton. Fire crews are on the scene blocking a right lane of traffic. It's causing slowing in both directions. Northbound, they're just curious. And then also northbound I-15, cleanup continues of a crash and load spill. This is blocking a right lane of traffic at the I-215 junction, the north interchange in North Salt Lake. Rekindle adventure in a place everyone connects with nature. Cedar City, Bryan Head. Shopping, dining, museums, spring skiing, tubing, hiking, biking, disc golf, and much more. Level up your adventure. Visit cedarcity.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Scattered showers and thunderstorms possible this afternoon. More rain and mountain snow expected tomorrow. Today's high 68 and will be in the 50s Friday and Saturday. And right now it's 68, looking at 68 degrees, or 62 rather, and partly cloudy skies. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
We had a great conversation earlier today about how to get into a good college. Because I think a lot of parents are wondering, what do I do to get into a good college or get my kid into a good college? What should I be focusing on? And historically, there have been a lot of different benchmarks. You can obviously have a good grade point average. Your standardized testing, so ACT score, SAT scores can contribute to that, extracurricular activities. But you put all of that forward in an application, and then you either get an acceptance or a rejection letter. Now, here in Utah, it's pretty easy to get into Utah schools. The University of Utah has nearly a 90% acceptance rate. UVU, 100% acceptance rate. It's open enrollment. Even BYU is 60 to 70% acceptance rate. But if you start looking at the Ivy League schools, for example, Harvard or MIT. MIT has a 4 or a 6% acceptance rate. So of 100 applications, they're only grabbing 4 kids out of that. It's very difficult. So parents are asking, what do I do to get my kids in? Well, historically, it has been a great GPA, AP classes, extracurriculars. I talked to a high school senior. His name's Trenton Caldwell, goes to Davis High School. He's in my neighborhood. He's my son's best friend. That's how I know about this. But he got a 36 on his ACT. Now, if you're not quite sure what a 36 means, that's a perfect score. He got a perfect score. In fact, your chances of getting a perfect score on the ACT is 0.0025. That's the chances of you getting a perfect score. But when he applied for schools, when he applied at MIT and BYU, he got rejected from both, which got me questioning, does an ACT matter anymore? So I interviewed him about what his role, what his trek was to try to get that perfect score, and his disappointment when he missed out on his favorite schools.
Very first official one, I think, was sophomore year. It might have been over the summer.
Do you remember how you did?
I think on that one I got a 34, I think, on my first official test.
What did you think when you got 34? You're like, I'm good. I'm never taking this again.
No, I was mad. I knew that I wanted to shoot for a 36, I think, because I knew I had it in me, I thought, anyway, which I was right. But I was happy with the 34, and I was happy that it was better than what I had done before, but I did keep taking it. So
you kept taking it, and then you took it as a junior.
I did. Yeah.
What did you get then?
That was the year I got a 36. So I think I took it twice junior year. At the beginning of the year I got a 35, and then I took it like mid-year and got the 36.
What was your reaction when you got that 36?
I was hyped. So I got a 35 twice. So I had done 2 consecutive takes where I got 35 and hadn't improved. And I was really hoping that didn't happen again. And I was super hyped when I found out it was a 36. It's like, I can be done.
I reached my goal.
Yep.
I hit the zenith, and it's over.
Yep, I'm done. No more ACT.
So not only is it like rewarding and exciting, you're obviously competitive, you wanted that perfect score. How rare is a perfect score?
From what I understand, I think it's less than 0.1% of the population gets a 36 on the ACT.
That's insanity.
Yeah.
So when you got that 36, what did you think the future would be like? Because that is so rare.
Yeah. I thought that was my golden ticket into any college I wanted, which is not true, really, in retrospect. But yeah, I thought that.
But it's what you thought at the time.
Yeah, I thought I had it made.
Anywhere you wanted to go.
Yeah.
How big? Like, what kind of schools are we talking about?
Like MIT, Caltech, those kind of schools. Turns out Caltech isn't even accepting ACT scores right now, so I didn't even apply to Caltech because I didn't think it would turn out well for me.
So when you realize that some of these premier schools are not valuing the ACT, something that you've excelled at, done very well at, what was your reaction? And they weren't the only Ivy League caliber school to do this. Harvard, Dartmouth, all these schools have gone back and forth and said, yeah, we don't really look at the ACT anymore.
I didn't really find out much about that until I got my applications back. I was rejected from both the schools I applied to, BYU and MIT. BYU was a real shocker for me. MIT, I knew that it was a long shot to get in, even with the 36. And I had heard actually that MIT really values a high ACT score. So I was kind of surprised. I kind of had like a dream in my heart that I was like, I know I'm going to get in, but it just didn't happen.
So you knew MIT was going to be competitive.
Yeah.
But that was your goal. That was your hope, your dream. That wasn't a big shocker, though. Still a disappointment?
Still a disappointment for sure. But I knew the admission rates. I think it's like 6% or something crazy like that.
But BYU
was a shocker for me. I had no idea. I still have no idea, actually, like what went wrong on my application, if anything went wrong, or if it just the stars didn't align. I have no idea why I didn't get in.
But at the same time, you must have felt like, I've done everything in my power.
That's what it felt like, yeah.
Where do you think you came up short? What in your brain, as you're jumping around, you're like, I've got a great grade point average. What's your grade point average?
It's a 3.8.
So I got a great grade point average. You've taken difficult classes. What difficult classes do you take?
I take lots of AP classes. I took AP Human Geography and Environmental Science in 9th grade. I skipped sophomore year for AP classes because I was super burnt out. Then junior year I came back with US History and Calculus, and this year I'm doing Stats and AP Literature and AP Chem.
7 AP classes?
7 in total.
7 AP classes. Have you passed any of those tests?
Passed all of them. I got 5s on all of them except for U.S. history, which is the essay writing one.
So you've had 7 AP classes. You had a perfect score on the ACT. You have a 3.8 GPA, and you have no idea still why BYU didn't accept you.
Yeah, it's got to be either the early action thing or my essays. But the essays wouldn't really make sense to be the factor that caused my rejection, because I did get help from people who do this for like a living, that just write essays or help people look over essays. And I spent a reasonable amount of time, so I thought my essays were good.
And whether it was MIT rejection or BYU rejection, neither give you any kind of answer or explanation of why you weren't accepted.
Nope, nothing. Just we're unable to offer you admission.
How frustrating is that?
It's pretty frustrating, because I really feel like if I knew what it was, I would be able to fix it lickety-split, but it's just impossible, really, because I have no idea. So I am planning on reapplying, and I think I'm just going to do pretty much the same thing. I don't know what I would change other than applying early action to both schools, but I can't think of anything else that would change that.
And truly, this speaks to the heart of the problem right now with higher education. Is he felt like he did everything right, and as a parent, I would have looked at it outside in and said, "Yeah, this is a great candidate. This is guaranteed to get you into a great school." But right now, colleges receive so many applications, and they don't give us any feedback. If we get denied, if our child doesn't get accepted, it's not you had a lack of extracurriculars or your GPA was too low or the classes you took in high school were a bunch of fluffy, easy classes. We're not doing a good job of telling our kids why they were rejected. And remember, there's a practicality here. They receive thousands, tens of thousands, millions of applications. But you have to understand that these kids that put their application to your school, this is their life. This is their hopes. This is their dreams. And I'm afraid we're failing them. We're not doing a good job of telling them what they need to do to get into college or why they didn't make it into a college. If we can't tell them that, then what are we doing here? That's my number one frustration with college acceptance, and we've got to be able to fix it. When we come back, let's talk about the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is listening to arguments made by former President Donald Trump that says he should be absolutely immune from criminal prosecution. Let's get the latest from News Nation next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Dave and Debbie go out of their way to make sure you hear all sides of a story.
They're working the phones to get several viewpoints on for you.
Hi, it's Tim and Amanda. We get you the full story, too.
We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Hey, have you saved more than $200,000 in an IRA or 401k? You may not realize it now, but you've got a big problem on your hands. And that problem is taxes. Because if you don't take advantage of some tax planning strategies now, Uncle Sam could take a big chunk of your hard-earned retirement savings. Learn how you could reduce the taxes on your IRA and 401k with a free retirement tax savings analysis. It's from Boss Retirement Solutions. If you've saved more than $200,000, schedule your free tax strategy session now by calling 801-896-9622. Discover the tax planning strategies that could dramatically reduce your taxes in retirement. Call 801-896-9622. That's 801-896-9622.
Advisory services offered through Boss Retirement Advisors, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. Insurance products and services offered through Boss Retirement Solutions.
Tonight on KSL.
That's a huge increase.
A lot of Utahns are getting sticker shock.
I called them up to ask them what was going on.
By the surging cost of insurance. New specialist Daniel Woodruff uncovers the painful truth.
I've been in the business 40 years and I've never seen this hard of a market.
And reveals the simple things you can do to drive the cost down.
Definitely paid off.
Surging insurance, an unaffordable Utah report. Tonight on KSL 5 News at 10.
Hey guys, do you know your T level? Revive Men's Health here in Salt Lake City is helping you take that first step toward better health and enhanced intimacy with a free testosterone level test, exam, and consultation. Plus, for this month only, qualified patients can kickstart their treatment with a free supply of ED medication. Revive's customized ED treatments can provide immediate results, restore blood flow naturally, and even bring spontaneity back into your love life. With both in-person and telemedicine appointments available, plus free shipping directly to you, Revive takes the hassle out of treating low T and ED. Having an optimal testosterone level can change your whole life, and it starts with knowing your T level. Take that first step and book your free testosterone test, free exam, and free consultation, and kickstart your treatment with a free supply of ED medication this month only. Call Revive Men's Health Salt Lake City at 801-263-7777. That's 801-263-7777. Or visit ReviveMen'sHealth.com.
The life of a small business owner. Keeping the lights on, calling all the shots. And then there's workplace accidents. 500-degree ovens, rusty nails. Danger lurks around every corner. Workplace accidents can happen, but there is an easy way to keep your employees covered. Talk to your agent about workers' comp coverage from Pi, or go to piinsurance.com and get a quote. Safety first, then Pi Insurance. Individual rates, offerings, and savings may vary, subject to policy terms and conditions. Not available in all states and situations.
79 missionaries trapped and penniless inside Germany borders with war days away. From director T.C. Christensen comes Escape from Germany, in theaters now. Tickets at escapefromgermany.com.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Tracy Dean Financial is a woman-owned firm that offers personalized financial services for your unique needs. By helping you make sound financial decisions, they ensure you can have peace of mind in retirement. Founder Tracy Dean joins us with more.
Leveraging over a decade of experience, I guide accomplished professionals to shift from career building to planning for a secure retirement. I also understand the unique challenges women face in retirement and offer tailored strategies to overcome them. Clients come to me when they have questions like, when should I take Social Security? Or am I making tax mistakes that I'm not aware of? And what happens if the market crashes? If these sound like questions you have, it's time to schedule a complimentary call with me at tracydeanfinancial.com. TRACEY, deanfinancial.com. In these turbulent, challenging times, it's imperative to have a trusted advisor on your team. Whether you're looking for insurance, wealth management, or investing strategies, our team can help guide you to personalized solutions that fit you. After partnering with Tracy Dean Financial, you will be able to eliminate the what-ifs and trust that your investments and tax strategies are efficient.
Through trusted financial advising, Tracy Dean Financial is committed to empowering each and every client to create their own blueprint for financial success. Learn more at their website. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Along with KSL Television, we here at KSL News Radio have put together a little something to make your day easier if you want to keep up on the latest, greatest, best stories of the day. We've got the 3 Things You Need to Know newsletter. To subscribe, all you have to do is text the word inbox to 57500. That's the 3 Things You Need to Know newsletter. Text the word inbox to 57500.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a fuel spill from a truck accident early this morning, causing a problem downstream in Sugar House Park. Second, deputies in Duchesne County trying to solve a 20-year-old mystery. And third, Harvey Weinstein's sexual assault conviction in New York has been overturned, but he won't be released from prison. 64 degrees and partly cloudy right now in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
At the Supreme Court today, arguments on both sides over just how far presidential immunity from criminal prosecution can extend. This is for former President Donald Trump. He says it should be absolute. John Sauer is arguing the case before the Supreme Court.
The president can be charged, put on trial, and imprisoned for his most controversial decisions as soon as he leaves office. That looming threat will distort the president's decision-making precisely when bold and fearless action is most needed.
But Michael Dreeben, arguing before the court on behalf of the government, says that flies in the face of what the Constitution intended. Such presidential immunity has no foundation in the Constitution, he says.
Such presidential immunity has no foundation in the Constitution. The framers knew too well the dangers of a king who could do no wrong.
Joining us right now from News Nation is Kelly Meyer. Thank you for joining us. The Supreme Court, they're listening. They're asking questions. Where are we at so far? Is Kelly with us? Oh, thanks, Kelly. Sorry.
It's okay.
Apparently, you got to turn the audio up for you, so we're good.
We got it. So, yeah, well, now you hear all the action outside of the Supreme Court. There's still folks out here. It wasn't as big of a protest maybe as we were expecting out here, but inside, the justices, we were trying to glean from their questions just how they may sway in this, and it really is hard to tell. But there are a few things that could happen here. You know, they could decide to send this back to the lower courts, which would then delay this even further and potentially not have any kind of decision in this until after the election. They could decide that former President Trump doesn't have immunity and then that special counsel Jack Smith's trial can go on, but they might not have a decision in this until the end of June. So that would therefore push it back until, just 4 months until the election? So making it incredibly tight for this to be decided by Election Day. Or they could just side with former President Trump, say that he is immune, and that completely shuts down special counsel Jack Smith's case. So there are a few ways that this could go, but I don't know if any of them make this happen any more quickly to get some sort of answer out of this.
As you mentioned so often, if you just listen to the questions that the justices are asking, you start getting an idea of where they're leaning. I want to play a little bit from Associate Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson and her questions.
Let me put this worry on the table. If the potential for criminal liability is taken off the table, wouldn't there be a significant risk that future presidents would be emboldened to commit crimes with abandon while they're in office?
What are we hearing from other justices as they ask these questions from the lawyers?
Yeah, it seemed like there was a big debate over what is an official act and what is a private act. And it seemed as though even the lawyer for former President Trump was saying that he is not immune from acts he does as a private citizen, but he is immune for acts he does as an official presidential in office. And so it just seemed, though, is that they couldn't bring in the scope. It was just too wide of a scope on this. They couldn't have a fine line between what is official, what is private, and then all these hypotheticals that you were playing there of just what this would mean. And I think they couldn't really fall on if there is a line for this as what constitutes official act here. But that's where the debate was over, and it seems as though they may not be able to decide that and then toss it back down to the lower court. That may seem like the most likely route here. Or they just kind of reject this idea completely and say that he is just not immune in this case.
We're speaking to Washington correspondent Kelly Meyer from News Nation. This isn't the only case that former President Trump has going on right now when he has to be in court. How has this impacted his campaign?
Yeah, and he wanted to be here in D.C. today, and then the judge in the New York City trial wouldn't let him because then that showed that former President Trump is concerned about this one. He wanted to be here. He believes the president should be immune. So he was kind of taking to the press and the mic there in New York City saying all of that. And that he has faith in the justices, especially the three that he appointed to the Supreme Court. But it's interesting, they sided with him essentially in the Colorado case a few months ago, saying that he could remain on the ballot in Colorado, and then virtually then in other states where they were debating whether he should be banned from the ballot. But this one, they might not be, willing to side with him on this. So it is interesting. But then again, as you said, he has his other trial in New York City. He can't be in two places at once. He's still in the courtroom for that. And he is really just continuing his courtroom campaigning, as we're seeing, trying to get on the road on the weekends, but weather impacted that last weekend. So he's just trying to go in front of the press as much as he can, use the microphone to his advantage, and keep, slamming the allegations against him and the charges against him, as well as slamming his opponent, President Joe Biden.
Another tricky part of the high wire act that President Trump has is oftentimes judges are putting a gag order saying he can't speak on these things, but he keeps finding cameras, it seems.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a whole other issue in this, that he takes a Truth Social, he goes to the cameras. He doesn't seem to stay quiet. It's hard to tell him, to not speak out against this because he will find a way to do so. But whether that gag order works, we'll have to see.
What precedent could this set for presidential immunity as a whole if the justices agree with his argument?
What was that?
What kind of precedent does it set if the justices agree with his argument?
Yeah, and that was a big thing that they talked about today, is that they feel the weight of this moment. They are saying what we write here is going to have an impact not just on the here and now, but in the future. So they, as they were sharing inside towards the end of the arguments, which went on for more than 2 hours here, were saying they felt the weight of this moment and how this could impact the future of the country, not just this presidential election, but how things are decided in the future. It is incredibly consequential. It's actually the last argument that they heard in this term, and we'll have to wait until end of June to see just how they decide.
Kelly Meyer, thank you for the update. Best of luck following this. Washington correspondent for News Nation. Thanks, Kelly. A big thank you to Morgan Lyon-Cotti, who joined me for the first couple hours of the show from the Hinckley Institute of Politics. She's the associate director there. Great conversations, and appreciate her taking the time as Debbie Dujanovic is off. Also, thank you for chiming in. Anytime you want to be a part of the conversation, make sure you text us at 57500. We always appreciate your phone calls as well. So we'll turn things over to Maria Chaleos and the KSL News team.